like to officially welcome you to day 2 of the Nigerian Affordable Housing Finance Innovation Summit and Expo. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to thank you and welcome you as we officially begin today's proceedings. Before we begin the plenaries, I'll just like to call on someone to give us a brief rundown of
percentage of the housing stock. Therefore,
Thank you. I'd just like to call on someone to give us a brief recap of some of the things that happened yesterday, while I also take a few recognitions. I'm informed that the representative of the permanent secretary of the FCTA is with us in person of Ncheta Benson. Shall we welcome Madam? Thank you very much. A round of applause for her. And she will shortly be giving us a goodwill message. So because of her dear office and the significance of what your attendance means to us. We also would like to recognize the presence of Architects X Guada. Shall we put our hands together for him? CEO, MD CEO of SBC Limited. Thank you very much, sir. It's good to have you here again. You were here yesterday as well. I also like to recognize the representative of the Executive Secretary of the Federal Government Staff Housings and Loans Board. He gave a very passionate presentation today, clarifying a few key issues that were very important for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Akinwale Ademola, shall we also welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you very much, sir. I think he was sitting in front. Maybe he just stepped out briefly. I'd also like to recognize the president of Alhaji Babangida M. Alhaji Babangida M. G House BH advisor. Shall we also welcome him? Thank you very much, sir. Please, would like to ask for our dignitaries, when you put your names down, we have some names we can't recognize because the acronyms they gave, we cannot. For example, I don't know what that is, so if I recognize you without recognizing where you came from, it will be incomplete. So please, when we put down our names for registration, let's do our best to put some of the details so we can properly recognize you and give you the honor that you deserve. Thank you very much. But if that was yours, please just call on any of the ushers and we'll to rectify that issue, and we will have that properly recorded. We also have several of our speakers already here. Some are waiting online. Our first virtual speaker, Mr. Babatunde Abrima, CEO FinTech Association of Nigeria. He's online. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? Thank you, sir. The Group Managing Director, Capital Express and Financial Services. He was here yesterday, Mr. Femi Obaleke. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. Looking forward to your presentation. The Executive Director for ASO Savings and Loan, Mr. Anesi Makoju. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, since it's from ASO Savings and Loans, I will get you there a loan or some savings today. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. We also have the President, Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Mr. Tunde Ogutade. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. We have, I believe he's, okay, he should be in here at this moment. Dr. Bashi Oshodi, CEO and co-founder of Trust Bank Author. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? I think, sir, please, you should be in front, please. Thank you very much. Okay. And thank you very much. So, yes, we also have Mr. Umar Amado from the Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause, sir? Thank you very much. It's good to have you with us. We appreciate your presence. At this point in time, I would like to call on Dr. Adebayo Aziz to give us a quick roundup of yesterday's proceedings so that we can launch into today's events. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, just before I do this, I would like to ask those that are sitting at the back of the auditorium to please move to the front and occupy the empty seats so that we can have coherence, engagement, and a proper atmosphere for our program today. Can we do that now, please? I'd like those that are sitting at the back to please move to the front. Thank you. Please, can you do that now, please? Thank you. While that is going on, I would like to join the MC and the convener to welcome us to day 2 of this program. And I'll be doing this for the benefit of those that are not with us yesterday, because I believe we left this place yesterday with a lot of information on what we should begin to do to advance the cause of affordable housing in Nigeria. The day 1 kicked off with the convener, Dr. Adelakun, reinforcing the objective and the vision of this summit, the 6th of its type, and the consistency and the determination to continue to do this summit year in, year out. And in the course of his presentation, he alluded to some of the other behind-the-scene activity that is going on to be able to meet the objective of the summit. Thereafter, we had VIP presentations in the hall yesterday. We had a representative of the Minister for Special Duties. We had a representative of the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs coming to also share their visions as to what the government is doing, what's the goal and aspirations of the government of the day to be able to provide housing, even beyond the aspect of housing as it has to do with housing sector, what they are doing to be able to provide for those that are destabilized, those that are unsettled in their locations and all that. And a lot of discussions as to assurances from government, looking forward to what will be the communique that will come from this program for their review and implementation. Then we had the critical part of the program which actually set the tone for the summit this year with the keynote address that was presented by Mr. Hakeem Ogunera on critical part to actualizing renewed hope for affordable housing in Nigeria. That paper is actually loaded. I want to advise the stakeholders in the industry to get hold of the paper. It went down the history of all the efforts that have been made in the years and what percentage you have achieved. And what is showing to us is that we have not started. And the juicy part of the presentation to me was the fact that we were able to take a glance as to what they are doing in other climes. People that have put interventions in place that are similar to the one we are doing, and what they have achieved. And we are able to do a comparative analysis of that with what we have achieved there. And the result is that we have not started. The gap is still wide. And of course, we went ahead to identify the challenges that has to do with issue of land availability, land title, transfer of title problem, issues of funding, issues of infrastructure, a whole lot of them. And with specific recommendations on what needs to be done. And this is why this is important for us to identify it, because in my view, a lot of this cut across what government we need to do, what the industry will need to do, and what the private sector will also need to do. You know, I recall he mentioned specifically, and he has actually been saying this in many forums, about the need for a review of the Land Use Act that is now outdated, that provide an avenue by which people can have access to land for purpose of building. I think after then we went into the dialogue on institutional interventions. And the people that are heading most of the institutions, government, private, organizations, they were on the panel to sort of give an update on how far they have gone on various mandates that they have. We had in the room yesterday the former managing director of Family Homes, who actually opened up the discussion with a lot of challenges to the industry. I recall the issue of corporate governance was what he hammered on a lot. You know, looking about continuity and consistency coming from a proper structure in organization, which he said is lacking. I think we had a presentation from the representative of the Executive Secretary of Federal Government Staff Housing Loan Board, telling the audience what they are doing, what they are able to deliver, and the gaps that they have. The same was the case with the representative of the Managing Director of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, telling the House the effort they are making to make housing available in Nigeria. We also had in the room yesterday the Managing Director of Federal Housing Authority Mortgage Bank, who also provided their milestones and the challenges that they have, and making specific recommendations on what needs to be done for them to be able to do more. I remember yesterday he drew our attention to what is going on from the FCT on the issue of issuance of CFO to mass housing, and how the process that's been done on that and the amount that's been charged is likely to impact on the asset of those agencies. So, and I think that we should be able to take that discussion further as we go into the program today. The last part of the program yesterday was digital transformation for affordable housing. And we had Professor Inyagete leading the discussion on that, as he discussed with us on digitization and data management imperative for delivering affordable housing. Also showing to us what they are doing in other climes and how data is important. I think from the audience, somebody asked a question about the fact that one of the problems we have is that we don't even know the exact number of houses we have, how many people have access to them, and what is the exact gap. And then also some other information that has to do with housing that will be necessary for us to be able to rise up to the occasion and meet the challenge. Then in the room yesterday also, providing insight on the discussion was Mr. Oladapo Fakeye, who is the Group Head Strategy and Performance from Federal Mortgage Bank. We also had in the room yesterday a factual presentation from two gentlemen, one of them from Kenya, who provided information as to what they are doing in terms of data and how, if you have need for the way technology can help us to be able to assemble data, that they could be contacted. We also had one of us that was not here, but presented virtually, Dr. Roland Igbinoba, talking to us on PropTech and what is being done in Nigeria thus far, the number of PropTech companies that we have, the startups that are coming up, and in ways and manners by which we could benefit from those services. I think the tail end of the program yesterday was the success stories of some PropTech companies that are coming up. A couple of them are here to talk to us about Split, about Funk, about Dukia Gold. So many other areas by which we could invest that are related to housing. And I think that's where we rounded up yesterday, as we look forward to engagement today to advance the discussion on the theme that has brought us here for the 6th edition of this summit, Renewed Hope for Affordable Housing in Nigeria. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the session today, and I believe that your coming will be so exciting. I'll be glad that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very apt rundown of events of yesterday. Straight away, as we have mentioned, I'd like to call for goodwill messages. We just have 2 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, should we welcome to the podium the representative of the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Capital Territory Authority, Ncheta Benson.
Good day, everyone. I wish to stand on existing protocol. I wish to welcome every one of us to this program on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, FCTA. He's really happy to be part of this. He's unavoidably absent, and he said I should present him and send his goodwill message to every one of us, especially the conveners of this niche program. It's so exciting to know about the renewed hope for affordable housing in Nigeria, because we all know that housing is the basic need of man. Not just the basic need of man, we realize that the housing industry is actually the greatest employer of labor in Nigeria, in the sense that they employ both the formal, the informal, the professionals, the street hawkers, food vendors, and all that. Whenever there's a housing project going on, realize that everybody is busy. And it has a way of checking youth restiveness, because this youth, because of the abundant energy they have, and whenever they have nothing doing, they look for something, whether good or bad. But the housing industry has a way of checking this youth restiveness and keeping the environment busy, and people are properly engaged and sustain themselves and their lives. We also want to thank the Family Homes Fund and so many partners, Federal Mortgage Bank, Federal Housing Authority, so many partners in the FCT, the real estate agents that have been so busy and helpful in providing affordable accommodation in the FCT. We really wish to thank them. But however, there's really a challenge in the housing industry, which I believe that this renewed hope for affordable housing would be able to check. And that is that we realize that in the city here in Abuja, there's so many houses, but few people can afford it. And now that the renewed hope should begin to look at the group of people that really need this accommodation. We're talking of young people from 25 to about 40 years, 45 years old. They are the ones that really have this challenge for affordable housing. When we talk of elderly people of 50, 60, most of us at that age are already having our own accommodation. Now, with this renewed hope agenda, I hope that you to be able to capture them in the sense that we have to begin to think of their ability, their capability to be able to afford these houses. And also to key into, just like one of the key, when I was listening here, one of the keynote speakers was saying that we should begin to think of the people that need the house, begin to walk from the people that need a house to the houses themselves. So that way we now know whether what we need is it one-bedroom bungalows, one-bedroom block of flats, and the affordability issue. So I really want to thank every one of us, and also to thank especially the conveners. The FCT is really willing to partner with you, and we'll be happy to give an arm of welcome to you anytime you need their help, because the FCT is really passionate about the provision of both mass housing and affordable housing. Thank you very much, sir.
As they say, water, water everywhere, but not enough to drink. Houses, houses on the streets, but people have nowhere to lay their head. Affordable housing is a very key issue, the day that we have to deal with. As it was said yesterday over and over again, that we should not be paying more than 20% or thereabout, at most 33% for our housing. Most of us pay as much as 60 to 80% of our annual income on our housing. That is, if you're fortunate that your annual income can actually pay your rent in the city of Abuja. So it's important that affordable housing be looked into, which will bring balance to both the economy and social issues that we have to deal with. I'd like to take a few recognitions before I call on the next person for their goodwill message. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Kachala Ningi, former Director General, Chieftaincy Affairs, Bauchi State, Alhaji Babangida Mohammed. Shall we welcome him again with a round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. No wonder, the attire. Now I understand. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you very much. I also would like to recognize the presence of O.A. Basiriju. Shall we welcome with a round of applause? If that's person in the hall? Okay, I think maybe they stepped out. Thank you. From For another goodwill message, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome all the way from Rwanda, Karin Ramanzi from EPCA Rwanda. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause as she comes in? Give her a very warm Nigerian welcome. As please, we're expecting, please do come up for your goodwill message.
Good morning, everyone. I'm grateful to be here. I'm sorry I was just surprised to come and then to share something. Greetings from Rwanda, Kigali. I'm from EPCA Development, and I would just first to thank Mr. Dr. Yemi for inviting us. I'm here in the presence of our CEO. It's a group called EPCA Africa. So it's a company with different subsidiaries. We do construction, we do power generation, and we do also EPCA development. So I was invited to come and to learn from you guys, as one of the main targets from our government, Rwanda, is just to invest and then to develop. Now we are not calling the affordable housing. We are yet to say modern homes and low-cost housing projects. Because we just saw that the so-called affordable housing projects is not affordable for everyone. So there are some middle classes that are staying behind. So that's why we as EPCA Development, we want to reach everyone with their budget. So thank you for the speakers of yesterday. I'm yet also to hear from others today and to learn to invest in Nigeria. And we welcome you everyone to come and visit us to see our beautiful country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's opportunity everywhere. If the lower ones are not exactly affordable, we can also create opportunities for those who can afford a class higher or a class lower. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria, and we're looking forward to doing more business and expanding relations with Rwanda. Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize also the presence of Mr. Shegun Kafaru from QuickLink Insurance. Mr. Shegun Kafaru, good morning, sir. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you. Insurance is very essential to our business. You know, insurance is a very interesting thing. You pay every year and the year. Thank you very much for that echo. It was quite necessary. You pay every year and nothing happens. The year you decide, nothing, I beg, this is a waste of money. Something happens and suddenly you decide you need to pay your car insurance or your house insurance. It's good to have you here. And in these days when the economy is interesting, insurance is a key area we must look into. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving now to our plenary session. And if I am correct, that should be the CEO of Hydroform Engineering Limited, Mr. Hakim Hotman. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. A company we've both followed keenly, and glad to see the progress of Hydroform. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you. This morning we're going to be moving quickly. As we mentioned, our target is to close earlier than the scheduled time, so people, some of our dignitaries can be able to go for some other engagements that they have. And so we'll try and merge some of the segments so we can move. So this morning we'll be merging equity financing and special purpose vehicles for affordable housing, the housing finance innovation, and then the second part is resilience and sustainability. So housing, finance, innovation, and resilience and sustainability, we'll try to merge them together this morning before we go for our lunch break so we can get as much out of it and we can push it forward. I'd like to call on the podium immediately the following people so that we can get started. Shall we welcome to the podium? I think he's online already, Mr. Babatunde Obrima, CEO, Fintech Association of Nigeria. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause, sir? It's good to have you. I think he will be talking about fintech linkages with affordable housing and digital economy. So in a few moments, he will be giving that presentation. Shall we welcome up to the podium the Managing Director, Capital Express Financial Services. Shall we welcome Mr. Obaleke Femi, the Group Managing Director, Capital Express Financial Services. Thank you, sir. Shall we also welcome to the podium the Executive Director, AHFIS Savings and Loan, Mr. NSE Makoju. Shall we welcome him, sir? It's good to have you again, sir. Thank you. The President, Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Mr. Tunde Ogutade. Shall we welcome him to the podium as well? We also have Dr. Bashi Oshodi, CEO and co-founder of Trust Bank Athor. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause as he joins us on stage for this segment? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the convener of this event, our distinguished panelists this morning, we would like to begin, and without any further ado, to hand over to our virtual presentation for Mr. Babatunde Obrima, co-founder of Fintech Association of, COO rather, of Fintech Association of Nigeria, for his presentation on fintech linkages with affordable housing and digital economy. Is he ready?
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if the organizers are sharing my slides or they want me to share from here.
Should he share it? Yeah.
No, I can't share it because I'm disabled from sharing, so.
Can you? I think you've been allowed to share now. Please check again. I think they've enabled you.
Okay, all right. I can see. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I would like to thank Dr. Adelakun for inviting me. I would like to stand on the existing protocols and to go straight into the presentation. My presentation, it's looking at linkages, fintech linkages. Sorry. Just a minute to take this up. Fintech linkages with affordable housing and the digital economy. And I would like to start by looking at what exactly do we call fintech? It's really organizations that are combining innovative business models and technology to enable and enhance and disrupt financial services. And the real estate sector is one of those organizations that should be doing that. And I'd like to start in 2020, together with EY, we did a study on the fintech census in Nigeria and the various segments that are playing in that space. Payments was 38%, lending 23%, savings and crowdfunding 15%, enterprise infrastructure 13%, cryptocurrency 8%, insurtech 3%. The other verticals, which are prop tech, agri-tech, health tech, ed tech, trans tech, which would account for 1%, which is a big challenge and which really speaks to the need for us to have fintech linkages to be able to look at this ecosystem. And beyond that, when you look at the statistics on disposable income in Nigeria, 56.7% is spent on food, 6.4% on transport, 6.1% on health, another 6% on education, which means that people are concerned about eating, about transport, getting to work, about their health and education, and housing doesn't seem to be a major part of the expenditure. I think it's mainly because the cost of housing is high. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, air is free, water could be free or you pay for it. The next thing is food. After food is shelter. Unfortunately, it's not showing in what people are paying for, and it speaks to the fact that it is expensive, and that's why. So, what are the challenges with people being able to afford houses in Nigeria? Of course, there's a mismatch in the funding and the cost. I think developers are using short-term funding for real estate development. So, of course, the interest rates are high. So, real estate prices are going to be out of reach. Now, I mean, if you're building at 20-something%, I mean, that's a huge cost for a developer. And of course, you want to recover that, so it affects the cost of the houses. There's also a supply-demand mismatch. Unfortunately, we hear all sorts of data, so we don't know which data is correct. And I think that's a huge problem we have in Nigeria in all our sectors, data issues. Of course, financial accessibility, it's a huge problem. People can't access financing. There are lots of mortgage banks, but capacity to be able to provide mortgages is low. Also, infrastructure and services gaps. We have socioeconomic inequality. Government policies and regulations are a huge limiting factor when it comes to affordable housing. I mean, from yesterday that people talk about the need to look at the Land Use Act again, and I think it's really important that is done. So when you look at what fintech solutions, basically what fintechs do is to be able to provide platforms to make transactions easy. I think last year when I presented there, I talked about the need to be able to have a link between fintechs, the judiciary, and the lands department. There's a need to digitize all those processes for fintechs to be able to function well within the housing sector. So if I want to buy a house, I mean, I know friends outside the country, they are buying houses, they're in their house, and they're calling the bank. This is what's called, the bank can cross-check and make sure that the documents are valid and the transactions is concluded without anybody visiting anywhere. So that's a huge challenge we have here. I mean, the process of, you have to go to the lands department, get confirmation, to confirm that it's even at times when you have CFO, some years later, I've had that experience in Lagos, years later, the government says, no, there was meant to be a road there. They shouldn't have issued CFO for all of you there, and they demolished the houses. So we need to have a digital platform for documentation, and blockchain technology is what really will make this easy to do, where things are well secured and people can check, they can validate that it's true, and transactions can be concluded in minutes if possible. Today, if you want a quick loan, even your bank will tell you, based on your average credit balance, you can take a loan of 1 million naira. If you agree, click yes, and within seconds, the credit is in your account. And that's how it should be really with real estate transactions. I mean, if we have the documentation, everything fully digitalized. And I think that's really where the challenge is. How do we digitalize judiciary and lands? And there can be linked between all of that in a blockchain platform that allows all the three key parties, or even five now, the buyer, the seller, the lending company, the lands, and judiciary all together in one platform. When you look at what fintechs are doing in recent times, most of the fintechs playing in this space are actually involved in the rent space. I mean, split, rent small. Bank is doing commercial lending. Commercial properties, where you can invest in commercial properties. So when we start looking at how can fintechs really solve this huge housing problem, I think we need to look at the reality of our environment. Take Lagos, for example, where I stay. I mean, to buy a detached house in Lekki, where I stay today, is 450 million to 500 million. How many people earn that kind of income? I mean, even if you go as far as Yanopaja, which is further away, it's about 55, 60 million for 70 million for a detached house, depending on the quality or the estate in which it is. So these prices are really out of reach. So do we need to build those big houses? I think that we need to start looking at smaller units or group people, like what bank is doing in commercial properties. I mean, why can't three people, young people, all bachelors, buy a three-bedroom flat together? And each person has a room, they have common services, and 2-3 years down the line, build to market appreciation, one person can exit or sell his room and move to and buy a one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment. But what fintechs do, the leverage that fintechs prove is that they can provide that link to make transactions as fast as possible, make it easier. They can provide lending. And I think that it's time that the federal mortgage banks start looking at fintechs as sources of providing mortgage financing, in view of the fact that they have faster solutions than what the mortgage banks are providing right now. We hope that the mortgage banks will also start to look at serious digitalization of their own space. So I think that fintech lending companies are ready to provide these services, working together with prop techs, and to be able to ensure that they can provide these linkages where they can provide solutions that make it fast, to make payment faster. But then that big elephant in the room we need to really deal with, which is the issue of digitalizing lands and the judiciary. So, I mean, fintechs will provide increased access to financing. With blockchain technology, efficient and secure property transactions will occur. And I think that's really the linkage that fintechs can provide in terms of affordable housing. In terms of maybe one of the things we also want to start looking at, we need to start looking at crowdfunding for the real estate sector that fintechs can provide, and people are investing and they get dividends from those investments based on the sales of those properties. So there are various ways by which fintechs can provide linkages, but then fintechs cannot provide affordable housing. It is the developers and government that will ensure that we can have affordable housing. But fintechs are prepared, ready for solutions to be able to do this. But then I think that a takeaway that should come from events like this is that we should form lobby groups to be able to go back to government, National Assembly. We need to pass laws that support some of this initiative, digitalization. I mean, we should not just say digital economy, and it becomes a cliche. We should not, we have to really deal with these issues across all sectors. And it's important, if we're going to solve the housing problem, there has to be digitalization of all the three core areas within the housing sector. And I think that would be my presentation. For us as fintechs, we are ready to be able to provide those increased financing and the softwares and solutions that will make it easy. But affordability portion of it has to come from developers, from government, and digitalization of the judiciary and the lands department. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bremer. That was a very concise presentation. And I would announce again, if you have questions or comments as regarding his presentation, please write them down or write his name beside it. After all the panelists have finished their presentation, we will take the questions together. At that point in time, whether it's a question or a comment, we will take them all at the same time. So it is more.
The MC is muted. I think the system is muted. We can't hear.
You say? Hello? Okay, he can't hear online, and I'm sure probably others online cannot hear. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. We wouldn't have known if you didn't notify us. We're grateful for that. So I was saying that please write down your questions, and this goes to those who are online. If you have a question or comment based on any presentation that was done, please write them down at the end of the presentation of all the panelists, both virtual and real-time here in-house. We will take all the questions and the comments together at that point in time so that it is more orderly done and we don't spend too much time taking questions after every presentation. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before we go up for the next presentation, I would like to call two other distinguished people also to join the panel, and so we would seem to have a bit of a marathon presentation before we go for lunch and maximize the time as much as we can. I'd like to call upon the Managing Director the Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director, Hydroform Engineering Limited. Shall we welcome him to the podium, Mr. Hakim Hotman. As he takes his position, he will be presenting a paper later on, Innovative Technologies, Infrastructure, Materials, and Utilities for Affordability. Thank you, sir. It's good, again, to draw from your wealth of experience. We also will be inviting to the podium the Managing Director, Brook Assets and Resources. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause as she comes on stage to take her place? Ms. Lanre Shola, shall we welcome her? Thank you very much, madam. Yes, because of time, we'll take, like I mentioned, we'll take a bit of a marathon presentation, and then we will take the rest. That's the information I've gotten. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now we go to the next presentation, which will be Securitization, Guarantee, Crowdfunding, and Other Housing Finance Innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Group Managing Director, Capital Express Financial Service, Mr. Femi Obaleke.
Good morning, distinguished participants, special guests of honor, as well as my colleagues on the panelist of presenters. My name is Femi Obaleke. I'm the Group Managing Director of Capital Express Financial Services. I've been made to understand I have just 8 minutes. So yes, so I have to fast track the present. Can you put up my slides, please? So you may not really follow this pattern in terms of order because of shortness of time. I'm talking to securitization, guarantees, crowdfunding, and other housing finance innovation. As a matter of fact, some of the things I'm going to be talking to have been spoken to by other participants, so I'll know how to manage that. Next slide, please. So that's the outline, who we are: securitization, real estate guarantee structure, crowdfunding, real estate innovation, then property, tech, landmark. Next slide. So in terms of who we are Capital Express Financial Services, made up of 3 subsidiaries: Capital Express Securities, that focuses on equities, fixed income transactions, and corporate financial advisory. We also have Capital Express Asset Management that deals with funds management and asset management, including real estate, and Capital Express Global Trustees that deals with private trust, public trust, raising of bonds for state governments and other institutions. Next slide. I've done like 4. Move on. I've spoken to this already. Move on. I've spoken to it. Okay, so, no, now take it easy. But it's okay. Yeah, you're on course. So this speaks to securitization. What is securitization? Forget about the big grammar. It's just a financial nomenclature. It speaks basically to pulling of assets together and repackaging them into interest-yielding securities. If I'm to relate it to real estate, basically for securitization, you may have mortgage-backed and non-mortgage-backed. So, for instance, you have mortgage institutions creating mortgages. When they create the mortgages, they go for refinancing to the likes of Federal Mortgage Bank. But when Federal Mortgage Bank refinances, what next? This is where securitization actually comes in. Because the expectation is when they refinance, they can actually, through the assistance of investment bankers, bring those assets together and create interest-yielding securities, private notes, public notes, that can be sold to the market to improve their liquidity and be able to refinance more mortgages. We've not gotten there yet because the value chain we have as of today stops with Federal Mortgage Bank. In reality, those stock of mortgages they have are meant to be restructured and created into interest-yielding notes that can be sold to the market. That brings about liquidity. Individuals can invest in them, just like you buy treasury bills. Now, what does that do? It creates more liquidity for more mortgages to be created. And I believe very well that with the way this government is going, looking at a $1 trillion economy, we will get there. It's a matter of time. But the journey needs to start from now. So as a result of that, some of us are engaging SEC, and I believe in the course of time, we'll also talk to Federal Mortgage Bank to get it to that level. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the transaction value chain. It speaks to the obligor, the originator, the special purpose vehicle, investor, trustees, rating agency, the servicer, and the credit enhancers, as well as the underwriters. Next slide. So it's the same slide, but it speaks to what exactly they do. So I won't waste time with this. Next slide. So these are some of the flaws: excessive leverage usage, pricing misconceptions, weak fundamentals, neglect of liquidity, and lax regulation and ease of credit. Next slide, please. This also speaks to guarantees. What are guarantees? A guarantee is an instrument that gives comfort to an obligor or off-taker. So what it means is that instrument, on the basis of that instrument, you can actually raise fund, because an entity has said, in the event of anything happening, I undertake to take on that liability. So, but there's different types of guarantees. There's limited guarantee, burn-off guarantee, several guarantees, specific performance guarantee, and carve-out guarantee. Several guarantees speaks to just saying syndicated guarantee. There are several parties involved, so it gives more credibility. Specific performance, it could be performance bond, custom bond, or what have you. Then limited guarantee, the guarantee is limited to the purpose for which that transaction was set up. Next slide. Crowdfunding. I think the previous presenter spoke to crowdfunding. It's also a way of financing real estate, indeed not only real estate or mortgages. The beauty of crowdfunding is that it's a retail approach to funding, and the cost is usually lower. So you have a situation where, rather than going for institutional funds, retailers, individuals put down their money, and it's cheaper. So you find out that if you raise a paper and you get people to subscribe to crowdfunding, even somebody that has 5,000 naira can put it there. So 2 more minutes. Somebody that has 1,000 naira can also put it there. The benefit is that you find out that whereas if you had 1 billion, if you take it into, let's assume you want to put it in a bank, today you can get 15% per annum. But under a crowdfunding arrangement, if several people with 10,000, 500, 200 naira pull the money together, it becomes over 1 billion, and they will also earn the same pricing. So even with 1,000, you get the same 15%. So the benefit of crowdfunding is that it is cheaper, and there is no concentration risk because you have several participants in that model. Next slide. So these are the reasons for crowdfunding traction. Like I mentioned, many stakeholders, the risk is split, avails investor opportunity to diversify their portfolio, reduction of risk exposure from huge capital outlay, offering investor exposure to real estate, reduces requests for substantial security requests and commitment. These are the pitfalls: limited regulation, liquidity, and potential loss of capital. Next slide. This is taking its roots from the FATE model presentation we made last year, which speaks to financial advisory using trustee and ESG model. But this speaks more to the technology aspect of the business, which I may not really want to belabor because we've had people talk about technology. Next slide. So this speaks to PropTech as well. I'm sure Dr. Igbinoba was here yesterday to talk to this, and the last speaker also spoke to it. But there's a nexus between what the last speaker said and the statement I'm going to make, which has to do with importance of PropTech. I'm aware that in Lagos State right now, there's a platform. The initiative came during the last administration. A platform where wherever you are in the world, you can access that platform to buy land, to register your title, to conduct searches on your title, to also get approvals through the Lagos State various agencies responsible for building and construction. I think this year the contract was actually awarded, and there's a consultant working on that right now. So when I was in insurance, we were actually consulted. Part of what we're supposed to do for them, using that platform as well, is to provide insurance services. So as you are processing your building plan approval, you're also buying your occupier's liability and builder's construction insurance and all that. So I think to a large extent, the government is doing something positive in that direction. Maybe there's no much noise about it. That's where a couple of people are not aware of this. But I believe that with all these innovations, the prop tech industry will actually have a major role to play towards achieving affordable housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that presentation. Please, as I mentioned before, if you have your questions or comments as regarding anything, please do put them down so that they will have an opportunity. Also, immediately after the session is done, there will be some time for about 30 minutes or so for interaction. So if you want to ask for the questions, get clarifications, you could approach the speakers just after they take their group photograph. You could approach them and have that interaction done. So because of the way we are, as we've mentioned before, we're putting the sessions together. We'll take one real, one in the house, and one virtual. We have someone waiting on the virtual space, and he will be coming to make his presentation next. Everybody has a general 8 minutes time to make their presentations, and then we can ask follow-up questions. Shall we welcome from this online space for his presentation on equity financing and special purpose vehicles for affordable housing, the Executive Chairman, Zelon Capital Advisors, Mr. Peterside Chamberlain.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Mr. Moderator. It's quite a pleasure to be part of this event, as always. It's been running for several years now, and I always find it very, very exciting and educating to be part of it. My apologies for inability to be there physically. I actually tried very strenuously to make it there, but it didn't happen. So I will quickly run through my presentation online. Now, my initial mandate for a presentation was to speak about impact investing. And I found it very, very an innovative topic, very interesting and innovative, because we speak a lot about affordable housing, and we know the basic data about Nigeria. We know the housing deficit numbers, 17 million or more. We know our GDP growth rate. We know our population. We know our urban population figures. But unfortunately, I find it very interesting to keep listening and hearing about mortgage financing, what the technical details ought to be, which is not, unfortunately. And that brings me to impact investing. And what is impact investing? It is when you source funds, when companies and organizations are specialized and focused in providing investment resources that are targeted to achieving not only financial gains, but also social gains. So you can provide wonderful, modern, affordable housing in a comfortable, safe environment that would lift families. You might not get the return on investment as you expect, okay? Double digit, which is typical in modern mortgage finance, but you're making an impact on society. And some organizations find that as their mandate, and it's fine. There have been very successful examples all around the world. We know of Habitat for Humanity, and we know of the J. Fuller Foundation, which my friend Sam, Sam runs out somewhere in the north, and they're all very, very successful. And let's look at this. If you look at the value of houses and you look at the average salary, there's no way in the world that an average low to mid-income earner can afford a home in this country. It's simply out of reach. Secondly, mortgage. How many mortgages have been written over the last, God knows, 50 years by Federal Mortgage Bank or the primary mortgage institutions? From my figures and my understanding, not more than 50,000 mortgages. And who are these beneficiaries? I'm not sure it's the middle to low income earners. Again, it boils down to the high income earners. In many urban cities, you see over concentration of collateralized mortgage instruments, as the last speaker has said. In light of all that, I believe that the convener had done a wonderful job, kudos to Dr. Adelakun, to say, can we begin to look into impact investing? How can that, aspect of the financial ecosystem provide homes at affordable prices, create neighborhoods, create family environments that are safe? And when you do that, then you achieve a holistic goal, which might not be financial. Now, listen to this. When you achieve financial gains for investors, they earn returns as dividends. If you earn return as dividend, but you live in a society that is not growing sufficiently, a society that is getting overpopulated, a society that is plagued with crime and social unrest, of what value is that dividend to you? Which brings us to impact investing. I think that as part of this event, our communique should begin to focus and encourage that partnership, encourage the synergy between technology companies that can develop the platform, developers, policymakers, and mortgage companies to say, at what price point can we provide homes in neighborhoods that are safe, that are comfortable, and that takes cognizance of the environment, okay? We're all aware of the Millennium Development Goals, and which is now Sustainable Development Goals. Housing is one of the key elements of it. If you don't achieve housing, comfortable housing and secure environment, it is hard. It is almost impossible that we can achieve the other, targets. I have to warn us that the numbers that we are seeing are not pretty. The population growth numbers at average of 2.8%, the GDP growth numbers that last population growth, and the housing deficit all put together makes for a situation that you can call a cliffhanger, okay? It can tip over, and you're going to have bustling urban areas that are totally crime-ridden, that are unsafe, and even those who are living in luxurious homes would also begin to feel unsafe. Go to Lekki, which is a very high-profile, hybrid area, growing at a very fast pace. In every housing development, modern estate, just outside the gate, you find a lot of squalors and slums. For how long is that possible? The solution lies in impact investing, where organizations and institutions and investors should begin to consider alternative methodologies of financing housing. An example will be, you make it a policy mandate. For you to develop your estate, you should factor some element in your investment ecosystem, how you develop some affordable housing that would stand side by side with your estate. It will meet certain criteria in terms of quality, standard, safety, environmental criteria and compliance. When that is done, if any of the states can pilot this, and Dr. Adoleko, I have to bring that up to you, that if we make it an issue that government should encourage estate developers to factor in impact investing for affordable housing in their long-term or mid-term development goals, I think we'll begin to see some changes. We have to be creative in this circumstance, and that's to me, one of the ways that when I looked at the topic, I thought that there's quite a bit of work to be done. Otherwise, we keep hounding and keep focusing on affordable housing year after year, and just not much impact. I have to commend Dr. Adoleko and the niche program that was launched that had seen the emergence of specific, housing delivery initiatives already in place. That is very encouraging, but we have to look at this on a much more broader scale. Population is growing. Urban population is about 51%. There's that drift from the rural areas to the urban areas for people looking for their livelihood. How are you going to accommodate them? What is the long-term plan for their safety, their environmental standards, and for the population to begin to get a sense of belonging? Because housing, like one of the earlier speakers said, is a critical criteria for modern living, for a normal livelihood. And with that, I'll have to, round up my presentation with, again, commending the organizers, welcoming all the speakers. I totally share in your views and I appreciate your expertise. And my sincere apologies that I couldn't attend this year's event physically, but I promise that next year I'll make myself available on the location. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for that presentation. It was quite impactful. As we mentioned, please put your questions and your comments down, so afterwards we will be able to take them. I'd also like to announce that for our lunch tea break, please remain seated. They will bring some light refreshment to you, water, drinks, or whatever, so we can extend the presentation. I'd like to recognize the presence of the representative of the Managing Director of the Bank of Industry. She is the Regional Manager, North Central Region, Ogo Ifoma Akabogo. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause? And please, could you move forward to the front seat, madam, as well? Sorry, the usher had been instructed to also ask you to move forward, madam. Yes, ma. Both of you, could you please move forward? All right, next for the presentation, following the same rules, 8 minutes for presentation, I would like to call, excuse me, we'd like to take our next presentation from ASA Savings and Loans. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please welcome the Executive Director, Mr. NSC Makoji.
Good morning, everyone. We have 8 minutes, so all protocol observed, and thank you for the opportunity. I don't know if my slides are ready. Can we have my slides up? So I'll make this very quick. I'd actually planned for 20 minutes, but I'll just go straight to the point. So the title, my slides are not up yet, but really the title of my own presentation is Digitalizing Housing, Savings and Loans. I'll give them a few seconds. All right, please, you can put up slides, yeah? So, all right, thank you very much. So we can go on to the next slide. So digitalizing housing, saving and loans. So what am I really talking about here? I mean, we've all heard a lot of talk now about fintech, which is basically the digitalizing of the banking and financing process, or the banking and financing value chain. Mortgage lending is very much part of banking and financing. So digitalizing housing, savings and loans more or less means digitalizing or bringing and infusing technology throughout the process of issuing mortgage loans. So that's what this is really all about. So You know, the integration of digital technologies in the fintech industry obviously sparked a revolution. Fintech companies exist all over the world, and they're actually growing at a much faster rate than traditional banking businesses. And the leading economy where technology has been infused into the mortgage lending process is actually in the United States of America. Please, can I take the next slide? Now, in the US, it's good for us to have a look and pick up some features from what's going on in fintech, in mortgage lending fintech in the US, to give us an idea of the kind of impact it can have. So without talking too much, some research work was done on mortgage lending and fintech in the mortgage lending sector, and some observations were made. First and foremost, since mortgage lenders came in, infusing technology into their processes, those fintech-based mortgage lending businesses are growing at a much faster rate than traditional mortgage lending businesses. So they have a cumulative compounded average growth rate of 30% in comparison to other traditional lenders. And right now they've grown, well, as at 2016, 2018, which is some time ago, they had grown to take up 8% of the market. Fintech lenders have been seen to be able to deliver and process their loans at about 20% the time it takes traditional lenders. In the US, that means they were able to reduce the processing time by an average of 10 days. Default rates for fintech issued mortgage loans are 25% lower than the default rates you get in traditionally issued mortgage loans. So somehow, going through that technology process also mitigates risk and reduces default rates. The processing is much faster, and in addition to that, these fintech companies maintain the same interest rates as traditional lenders. So because they process at a faster time and spend less cost, they are more financially sustainable. They make higher net interest margins. So bottom line, right, without going through all the points, fintech mortgage lenders have been found to be more efficient, faster, and better at mitigating risk in doing the business. So it goes without saying that it's a good way to do this business. Mortgage banks should be looking to apply fintech models in doing their business in Nigeria and all over the world. So next slide, next two slides, you can actually jump. So, okay, thanks, all right. So next two slides. So, all right, before I come into this, I also have in one of my previous slides, right, some study on fintech in Nigeria. And without getting too detailed about it, the Nigerian economy has shown a lot more responsiveness to the adoption of technology in financial services than most other African countries, including South Africa. The fintech space in Nigeria has been the most dynamic, and it has been able to attract the most investment from the Western world in comparison to all other African companies. And all the fintech businesses, you know, MoneyPoint, OPay, etc., they are growing at much faster rates than traditional businesses, and they're doing very, very well. So it shows that fintech itself can actually do well and sustain itself in the Nigerian economy, right? So that's established. But if you look at studies, right, if you go into detail of others of these studies, right, what you find is, whilst this is doing well with your normal transactionary services, payroll loans, and not other traditional loans, the penetration rate of fintech into mortgage loans is minimal. It's barely 1%. If you assess all the mortgage banks in the Nigerian economy today, what you will find is that majority of them only infuse technology into the front-facing elements of their customer engagement. They are unable to infuse technology across the value chain to the point of issuing loans. Why? Because the Nigerian ecosystem for fintech, despite the success we're achieving with the, what you call the mobile money banks, the ecosystem for issuing heavier loans, more capital-intense loans like mortgage loans are, by far more expensive than payroll loans, is very deficient. Why? Because when you are issuing higher volume loans, there are certain things you need to have in the ecosystem. You need tools and applications that help with customer verification, data validation, data analytics. We haven't even gone to the space where you use NFT and blockchain technology to even get to the point of collateral and title perfection. So for it to work in Nigeria, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to be able to bring in these big data applications and businesses to find Nigeria attractive, to enable us process these loans, document verification, and also migrate governments who play a major role in mortgage loans, because governments issue the titles, governments give perfection to the underlying security collateral for a mortgage loan, which is a deed of legal mortgage. It requires the government to stamp it and perfect it. Until we're able to bring all participants to the value chain and the ecosystem, it will be difficult to get to a point where you can say you have fully infused fintech into the mortgage lending process. And that's the challenge in Nigeria. But we've heard today now that Lagos State government have started a process, and of course they are the leading government when it comes to property in Nigeria. We expect other state governments to follow. Apart from even the state governments, we expect big data analytics portals to come into Nigeria. We have credit reference company and all that, but we need to see more improvement in that regard so that mortgage lenders can have the confidence utilizing technology applications for the issuance of mortgage loans. So that's really what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. When I grew up, I would like to work in AHFIS Savings. When I first saw the brand AHFIS Savings, I said, oh, it's another government thing. But as they began to work and advance, it was clear that excellence was at work and at play, and you can see their hand littered all over Abuja and your estates and the work and the loans that you've given. Congratulations, sir. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Please, a round of applause for him once again. Now, moving to the virtual space, we'll be going from real to virtual, as we've mentioned. We have our next presentation on disruptive construction technology. And presenting that will be the CEO and inventor, Moladi Construction Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the presentation on our virtual space, Mr. Henny Botez. Okay, it'll take a minute and he will be up for that presentation. So as we've mentioned before, we'll take all the presentations together, and once we're done, then we will take them, or we'll give room for the questions and the answers and the comment section, and that we will have. We would also have a general meet and greet session. After they take their photographs, you are free to approach them and ask them questions and get clarifications on certain things that were made from their presentations. Also, those of them who have slides, the slides will be presented to you, sent to you via email immediately after the day's event. So you will have the opportunity to interact in a more robust way with the full scope of the presentation that they have. Are we ready now? Or what's the challenge? Should we move on to another presentation? Okay, we're having significant problems. Is there any other person online virtual ready? Okay, all right. So we'll move to another presentation in-house while we try to sort out that. He's ready now? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's have that presentation. Henny Botez.
I think that because of time constraints, I think it's important that I just run through my PowerPoint as soon as possible.
All right. Do we have his PowerPoint ready?
I shared it online. I don't know if you're able to see it on that side.
Okay, we have it ready. So you have 8 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So from what we do with Moladi is to simply look at the real housing backlog in Africa. And we're talking about 50.5 million homes. And the question is asked, why is the need for affordable homes increasing year by year? And is delivery methods responsible for the increasing backlog? Of course, Albert Einstein put it in a very good way by defining it as insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. if we look at, firstly, we have a process of brick production, then we have wall production, and then we have a house production. So for me, if I look at this, I see it as slow, I see it as expensive, I see it as wasteful, and I see a quality issue, and I see carbon emissions. If I then look at a very good example of technology where the Model T superseded the horse and carriage, people were extremely reluctant to let go of the old. And if I look at conventional construction, in reality, it's one of those issues. So what makes Maladi different is that we don't rely on a brick supply. The brick process, you have a lot of waste, you have transport costs, etc. So what we do is we make a mold for the whole structure, and we fill the cavity of the mold with river sand, cement, and a cementitious admixture to make it waterproof, to make it flowable. And the following day we remove the formwork, and the formwork is reused, producing a shell in one day with electrical pipes in position, water pipes in position, windows, doors, and positions for roof trusses. So because we speed the process up, we then obviously reduce the cost of construction significantly. We then don't are beholden to brick supply and brick production. We produce the wall in one day. It takes 4 hours to erect the formwork. We fill it in 2, and we leave it overnight. The following day, the formwork is removed and the shell is ready for its finishing materials. The World Economic Forum said Maladi is one of the world's most scalable, affordable, and socially acceptable housing systems in the world. This is after we built 16 courthouses in Tanzania for the World Bank. We produce the components here in Port Elizabeth. We currently export to 27 countries, so we pack the containers. In the container, we include a toolbox that you would need to help with erecting the formwork. We have a foundation system, so once we remove or unpack the container, we immediately erect the raw foundation former on the site. We dig the trenches, we put plastic underlay, we put the reinforcing in position, we put dense concrete, and we float. So this team produces one foundation in one day. If we have 10 molds or 100 molds, we produce 100 foundations in one day. We then have an assembly instruction that goes with the formwork. This was for EOCOP, where they did the Tanzanian pipe, or the Ugandan pipeline that runs through Tanzania to the port. So we've produced in the rural areas, we've produced over 500 structures for communities that we were affected by the direction of the pipeline. We employ the local community. So it's very important that if you stimulate the economy by producing homes, is that you also create jobs. So in South Africa, we're sitting with 14.5 million people unemployed. Maybe because of an antiquated school system, they get to grade 12 and they still have no job. And then, obviously people go to university for degrees, but if you don't produce at the base of the pyramid, there's also no place at the people for the top of the pyramid. So when the formwork is erected on the foundation, we put the doors, the windows, the plumbing, the reinforcing, everything in place. We then, this is a 2-bedroom, 52 square meter unit. It takes 4 hours to erect the formwork. We fill the formwork, we mark the panels. There you can see the window frame in position between the formwork and the door and the plug boxes. The following day, we remove the formwork and re-erect it on the next foundation. That's the shell the following morning. This was in Ghana. Most of these guys standing here are spectators. They cannot believe their eyes that the day before there was some plastic formwork up, and the next day this shell of the house is there. The guy on the ladder, you'll see there's this a window frame at the bottom that simply slots into the opening very accurately, and it's waterproof and it's simple to fix. Again, with one mold, you'll produce one house in one day. With 100 molds, you'll be producing 100 houses a day. So I know Nigeria has got a backlog of between 17 and 23 million units. Brick and mortar will never address firstly, the cost of construction has to be reduced, and secondly, that of course has a huge impact on affordability, and secondly, the quantity that needs to be produced is also huge. This is the first house that I cast 1987, 36 years ago, and this is a photo that took last year, and those double garages were built on using conventional brick and mortar. So just to show that we can do extensions on existing Malari structures. This is a 42 square meter unit. We did this in Namibia. This is in Durban, here in South Africa, a 52 square meter, what they call a breaking new ground model. This we did in Trinidad and Tobago, a 52 square meter unit. From unpacking the container to handing over the key took 2 weeks. And this unit we produced for $13,000. In Cape Town, we did these semi-detached units in Table View, in Parklands in Cape Town. And these units sold 10 years ago for $599. They're now on the market for $1.2 million. In Tanzania, we cast this show unit and invited all the ministries, and we then obviously got chosen to do the courthouses for the judiciary. In Namibia, we produced this in Otapi, close to the border of Angola. This is a 3-bedroom unit. Then in Botswana, in Palape, Maladi was used to build this motel, or boutique hotel. That was also done by a contractor that we trained to use Maladi. As I said earlier on, the Uganda Total Energies, or EOCOP, East African Crude Oil Pipeline, these villages were built newly because of the displacement based on the pipeline, and they were 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units with outside toilets and outside kitchens. So we erect the formwork, fill it, next day we strip, put the roof on, paint, hand over the key. This we did in Haiti with the Clinton Foundation after the earthquake, and we used building rubble from the earthquake to construct the unit. In DRC, at Kamoa Copper, in a small little town called Kolwezi, we produced all these dormitories for the mine workers, and this included many additional amenities. So we had 2 beds per dormitory, and we had 4 rooms per block, and the combination was 2 blocks staggered, and this was also again cast in 1 day.
Well, thank you, sir.
There you can see the formwork. Am I running behind? Yeah.
Sorry, sir. We've overshot the time by 2 minutes, so could you please help to round up as we proceed? Thank you.
Thank you. Some ablution blocks, the toilets, the courthouses in Tanzania. We're busy in Uganda with a 50,000 house project for the military. We are also busy with student accommodation in South Africa and in Uganda. These are some of the classrooms we produced all over Cape Town, Gauteng, Kimberley, Northern Cape. Again, classrooms, clinics. So one of the issues in Africa is obviously social acceptance. People, when they knock on the wall, they want to know it's strong, it's durable. All our approvals from all the banks, just to give you an idea of how strong the wall is.
Pretty solid.
Exactly. So you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And I want to finish off by saying that we're starting with our first house in Florida in the USA. We've done all our tests, so we're very excited to also use an African product in the first world per se. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Innovative solutions for African problems. Thank you very much, sir. That was quite apt. And again, we'll take down comments and questions, and we will take them afterwards. I'd like to take a few recognitions before we go to the next presentation. I believe the next presentation should be the one on insurance for sustainable housing development. But I'd like to take a few recognitions. We have the General Manager, Niger State Housing Corporation, ESV, Ahmed Abdullahi. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause? Where is he? Thank you very much, sir. It's good to have you here. We're seeing a lot of visitors from Niger State, and we're glad for it. Thank you. Our warmest regards to His Excellency for sending such a rich entourage. I also have the Deputy Secretary General, Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria. Now, this is a very large block that needs affordable housing. We're happy you are here. Shall we welcome Henry Ejiofor, shall we? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much indeed. We have a representative, the Deputy General Manager Operations, Jais Takaful Insurance. Jais Takaful Insurance. Fasugba Fatai. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? Fatai. Okay, he's over there. Thank you very much, sir. It's good to have you with us, indeed. Also with us is the Regional Director, Abuja North, representative of the Managing Director of Leadway Assurance, Mr. Olufemi Awodimi Bola. I hope I got that correctly. Thank you. Okay, he's also at the back. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us. We will take all the recognitions as we go along. Oh, I also did notice Professor Yangete is with us. Thank you very much for having you, sir. It's good to have you once again. Yesterday, he told us he had 100 slides on his presentation, and he was able to masterfully do that within 10 minutes. It redefined what mastery means to me. A lot of us will go back and polish up. Thank you for being here again today. All right, straight away we'll go for our presentation today, and as we mentioned before, it's a very important one on insurance for sustainable housing development, and it's being presented by the President, Nigeria Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Mr. Tunde A. Oguntade. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause?
Good morning, distinguished participants. I acknowledge the brilliance and the forward-moving effort of the convener, my brother, Dr. Yemi Adelaku. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to acknowledge my colleagues in the House, in the insurance room. Our brother, Femi Obaleke, was with us. He has run to the finance end, and I'm sure he's still giving us very good representation there. Well, without much ado, I'll just go straight to what we've been talking about. For us in insurance, we've seen some new lexicons here. We came in here to discuss affordable housing. Along the line, my sister from Rwanda was talking about low-income housing, middle-income housing, and mass housing. So what we have to just talk about is provision of housing following the shortfall. And the last presenter just pointed to the fact that what we claim to have in Nigeria, the deficit in Nigeria, is not real. That from their own statistics, they have about 50.5 million housing deficits in Nigeria, and he has provided solutions to quick building of homes, not mortars and bricks. For us, all of these things cannot be consolidated without insurance. Insurance is the real key, is the bedrock of the economy. If housing is the second need of man, then insurance should be the first one, because survival is the first law of nature. And insurance is just a way of networking all these resources, putting them together to achieve optimal goal, and with success over the years. I have seen that some of our people who are into insurance and some other things have delved into my paper, but I'll try to just say that, well, Nigeria currently the largest economy and most populous nation in Africa. Sorry, I don't have a slide. You know, this is not INEC, so there's no glitch. I'm coming from a trip. With a GDP amounting to $477.4 billion US dollars in 2022, is driven by oil production, agriculture, and a rapidly growing telecommunications and technology sector. A home to over 250 ethnic groups and over 500 languages. Its annual rate of urbanization has been estimated at 3.92%. Pressures due to exponential population growth, massive rural-urban migration, and usage of inappropriate housing development technology have created huge cases of slums and squatter settlements in the cities. Sadly, the housing deficit of Nigeria grew from 7 million in 1991 to 28 million in the year 2023. That is the data that we have in Nigeria. But those who are monitoring us, who have a data culture, have told us the deficit really is 50.5. The following are notable factors affecting sustainable housing development in Nigeria. We have financing, which most of my earlier speakers have elucidated to. We have high cost of construction, which the last speaker was trying to moderate. Regulatory and policy challenges, Akim Oguniran spoke to that, permits and land matters. Then you have high construction costs. We spoke to reinforcement that has gone from about 130,000 naira to over 560-something thousand naira for reinforcements. So no wonder a lot of mass housing developments are now on the bungalow level thing, because they try to avoid the cost of reinforcement. Then you also have urbanization and population growth that we see every day. About 1987, when I first came to Abuja, you move around, you drive for miles before you see the next house. But now houses are all over the place. Then you have squatters on the major roads. You cannot drive from the airport to this place without seeing squatters and some kind of nuisances around the place. Those speaks to the fact that people are becoming homeless. Well, it is not strange. Even in the US and Canada, you have people living in camps. But our case is still good because of our nature here. The African family structure allows us to bring in our homeless brother. But in those other climes, you don't see them, so that's why they are so open. Number of us are really homeless. I know that we know those days when Abuja first came up, you had a lot of married men and married women squatting in the same flats. We had some funny marriages in those days. Limited technical capacity and skills, yes. I see that a lot of speakers have spoken to that. We have acknowledged that that exists. And I think Niche has brought that to the fore. And they're going from this conference, we'll be able to address that. I congratulate Niche for that. Incessant collapse of buildings. Yes. This is something that has brought over to our attention over 600 houses that has collapsed in the last 10 years. We have quite a number of them in our major cities, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and some small places in Kano and Kaduna. What has happened is that in most cases, professionals are not brought into this. And we have always advocated for the role of insurance practitioners. When you bring insurance into it, You have the opportunity of a free survey. The underwriter will bring his surveyors to look at the place. They look at things like topography. It's not every land that you can build a particular kind of structure on. For us in insurance, we are so educated and enlightened about that. So when you bring in insurance experts, we look at these things, we bring our surveyors who will look at those things. Then we look at standards. And of course, nobody will grant insurance cover where the necessary permits have not been taken. So if you need to take necessary permit, it means that you cannot cut corners. But you find that in all of those cases where you have collapses, you've not had insurance coverage for them, and no broker has been involved. I think broker insurance in the house, you clap for themselves. We are not part of the rubbish. Then you have the devaluation of the Naira, where there's nothing we can do about that. We've hurt ourselves so much. There was a time when we were underproducing the major source of income and revenue for Nigeria, which is the oil area. We had a lot of bunkering and things that were going on. Then the agri sector was neglected. So we would have had competing areas of foreign exchange generation if we had been doing the right thing, but we've not been doing the right thing. And the Naira did not just free fall on itself. We caused the Naira to fall, and we are all suffering for the effect. The gentleman there said they built a two-bedroom house for $13,000 when a dollar was riding pari passu with the Naira. When a dollar was, I think that would have come in for less than 5 million Naira. But today, I'm sure for a two-bedroom in Nigeria, sustainable housing, affordable housing, low-income housing cannot come in for less than 20, 25 million. Because most of the contents, 80% of the contents of our building structures are imported. But that notwithstanding, there's hope. We bring you from the insurance industry. We come with the aim of partnership. We come because we have a lot of funds we carry a lot of funds. Most of the funds that the bankers are bantering about are their funds. If the insurance industry decides to withdraw its funds today, the banks will collapse. I want to tell you that. I'm not joking about that. I'm not joking about that. And the convener knows that. Even in the life business alone, what we bring to the banking sector in the year is in excess of 300 billion. So if we decide to open insurance bank, I'm sure those things will not hold. Femi Obaleke has spoken to the kind of various policies that insurance brings, like performance bond, specific performance bond, credit bond, among others. What I only want to say here is that when you look at your investment ecosystem and you factor insurance premium into it, then building cannot fail. Just make sure you factor insurance element into your investment ecosystem for the built industry, and all will be well. Well, I represent the body of insurance brokers. That's the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers. We're over 60 years old. I'm the 22nd president. And then what we do is to bring professionalism into the value chain of insurance. And what we offer here is security and peace of mind. I want to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very enlightening presentation. It is true, especially when it comes to the issue of buildings that collapse. If they were insured, the insurance company would ensure that the buildings were up to standard before they even issued that insurance, and that would be a nice way to check some of these substandard things that we have and to balance our government oversights, the issues of corruption and all of that. It will be a good way to do so. So it's something I think we should look into seriously to ensure that the lives of people and their investments are not destroyed and wasted in such very sad incidents. Thank you, sir. Straight away, we're going to presentation that we're all interested in, and I would like to kindly warn the presenter beforehand that everything you say here can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion. Now, this presentation is on non-interest housing finance and affordability. So you can understand where I'm going from. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we welcome the CEO and co-founder of Trust Bank Author, Mr. Bashir Oshodi.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Can you show my slide, please? I'm not going to take, come on everyone, I really appreciate. I'm going to come in for like 6 years and I couldn't come. I'm happy I'm here this time. I'm going to talk about alternative finance. Call it Islamic finance if you like. But more importantly, for me, I don't want to spend the time describing lovely models, right? And describing nice contracts that we use in Islamic finance. I'm sure you can see Brins City. Yes, we finance the using alternative finance, right? We've done loads of projects, Kano Economy City, and several of these projects. But more importantly for me, right, I want to show you more importantly, the value proposition, right? By that, yes, I'll look at the problem statement, which is more important to me. Value proposition, right? Call it problem statement in this case. I'll talk about the contracts, and I'll also talk about some models, looking at the experience, real life situations, very quickly, in a few minutes. If I have a bit of time, I'll cover risk. However, risk is risk, right? Now, this is my most important slide. I wish I can move around, but I only have this speaker. But since I can't move around, have a look at this. Now, we have a choice. This is what I try to do here, is to say, for those at the bottom of the pyramids, they need social housing. 100 million Nigerians will not be able to afford housing for a very long time. 100 million Nigerians. Why? Because they don't even have income. Because they don't have income, it means no matter how much we try, except the social housing. The kind of social housing you have that has been well established in several jurisdictions. I'm sure you know them. Let's even leave the UK and the US alone. Let's look at Far Eastern economies that only started to wake up 30 years ago. So 100 million people, the way we're going, we're not going to get there, unfortunately. So let's look at those at the middle of the pyramid. 60 million Nigerians. 60 million. How can we provide housing for 60 million people? Civil servants, people working in one-man businesses. I'm simply a banker, right? I'm a banker. I've been in the bank for about 25 years, right? Now, as a banker, what's most important to me as a banker is profitability. Profitability. And to ensure shareholders get value. You know, I want to give them profit. Anything outside that, they're going to look at me and say, Bashir, this is not charity. And that is the reality. Profitability. So why would a bank? Why would I also teach in the university? I teach social housing, I teach housing finance, I teach alternative finance. Why would a bank say, because I love Nigerians so much, and I love the system so much, I'm going to give all those in one-man businesses. I'll give them mortgages. So I tell my students, I put up the mortgage slides, look at it. You cannot afford the property of 50 million naira. You know, 90% of Nigerians, 90% of the adult population cannot afford the property of 50 million naira. But guess what? They can also not afford the property of 20 million naira. I used to be in land services. One of my colleagues, director in land, he wanted to buy a property, 70 million naira, 7 years ago. Guess what? It was not eligible because his cash flow cannot carry it. But let's combine something unique. And this is, again, this is my problem statement, right? Let's borrow, let's leave at Fannie Mae, let's look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Let's leave their style a little bit. Let's go to the UK, right? And what we have to do, within the realm of Islamic finance. Then by the time I'm now running through the other slides, very quickly, you understand where I'm coming from. In the UK, for example, there are building societies. They will own the assets. They will own up to 70% of the assets because the people can afford it. Because they own up to 70% of the assets, it means they're only looking at you paying for 30%. Out of that 30%, you're going to only give the bank 5% of 30%. If the property, let's pick this as an example. The property is 5 million naira in Nigeria, right? Or sorry, let's just 50 million naira. Let's pick the high rate so that we know Federal Mortgage Bank can at least refinance that, you know, or fund that at some point. Now, if the buyer's share is 5 million naira and is supposed to bring 10%, it means that that buyer is getting a mortgage on 5 million naira. It then also means that somebody must take the 45 million naira. In the UK, building societies will take that. Banks will come together to take that. How do we then use Sukuk? How do we then use Sukuk at bonds, Sharia compliant bonds? You know, your federal government is Sukuk and the likes of them. How can we use the instrument, CPs, commercial papers? How can we use real estate portfolios to take care of that 70%? So as somebody that wants to buy a property of 5 million naira, we struggle to get at least 10 million naira. Sorry, at least 1 million naira in a bad case 20%. If we don't do that, then we cannot solve the problem of those in the middle of the pyramid. Again, we have discounted those at the bottom, unfortunately at this time, right? Now, very similar to that. In the UK, for example, the bank will say, okay, we're going to provide 75%. Go and get somebody else. The building society will take another 20%. The buyer only takes 5%. Again, the bulk of it. So under Islamic finance, for example, is what we call diminishing musharaka, diminishing partnership. It's a case where we combine partnership with lease, right? You bring certain percentage of the partnership bit, you own the asset, right? You own 50% of the asset, the bank owns 50% of the asset. You start to pay rent on the bank's element. I know my brother from Federal Mortgage Bank talked about lease finance yesterday, or lease to own. There are 1,000,001 models, depending on the sector, or the population, or their income level, the income level we're dealing with. But let's even say this is one of them, diminishing partnership. How do you start to own? So that even when you default, after 20 years or 10 years or whatever, they can still sell the asset and give you your share. So when the property appreciates in value, you still have a share that is more than what you used to own in the beginning. Again, there's not much time to go deep into serious housing models or financial models, but let's just rush this very quickly. Now, more recently, there's what we call community offsets, where the community, all of us, will give mortgages, if you like, pull money together and give somebody. Again, play the role of building societies, right? But practically, that's difficult. It then means we need fund arrangers to take this portfolio, create them into certain bundles or notes or even commercial papers in the short term. On that, so again, in the case of the UK, for example, a lot of the Asians were not buying houses using conventional mortgages a very long time. They were pulling money together to buy a house from Mr. A, Mr. B, and on the back of that, they will own their share in the asset. We are unable to do that. However, we can get people together to own all of these houses. Call it family offset, community offset, association offset, cooperative offset. But more important, what we're interested in is those that will take the bulk of this, the part I circled, that large chunk. It needs to be owned by an entity. Is it going to be, are you going to have NMRC bonds or Sukuk, as the case may be, that will hold this and trade it? Are you going to go to Dukia Gold and say, Dukia Gold, we're giving you the bulk of this money in the short term, so we can hold on? Because if you do a Sukuk, right, and you keep the cash and you don't spend everything I want, of course, because property prices are still rising, because they are rising, it means at the point of delivering the thing, you're still going to have shortfalls. So do you want to edge that against some other assets or instrument? Again, if I have time, I'm going to cover a bit of that. So very quickly, let's leave this simple. Now let me then go into other models of Islamic finance. Again, because of time, I'm going to describe Islamic finance easily, right? We have equity, we have debt, and we have services. So equity is equity, your JV, right? But are you going to go to somebody and say, I want to do JV with you? Will they give you money? There's moral hazard. You know, partially all the partnerships we do, call it Musharaka, call it Mudaraba, those are the names we call them. But particularly 90% of the partnership we do go bad in Nigeria. And that's because of moral hazard. The other party can move to Canada. It can walk away. She can walk away, right? The person can decide that because I understand the model, I will make it successful. And that's very common. And what happens if the person does not pay you back? Under a partnership regime. So it's risky, very risky, but they're doable where the parties are, you know, within certain communities. But I'm going to cover risk very quickly and explore how we can use communities, you know, or group of people or cooperatives to achieve such, right? So your partnership is red, dangerous. Sale, you buy for 100 naira, you sell for 120. There's a markup, that's sale. You can also buy assets that do not exist. So I use the example of Brandama City. We bought houses that did not exist 7 years ago, and we sold to people thereafter. But you must buy first. You must own, and then you then transfer, right? You can buy what does not exist. We did the NMRC underwriting standard. We tried to look for the kind of Sharia contract that we can use, right? And we picked, NMRC didn't want assets that did not exist, right? However, one of the best set of mortgages, right, is to create what we call off-plan mortgages. It's not acceptable under conventional finance, but under alternative finance, you can buy houses that do not exist at the point of buying them, right? Provided they're going to exist in the future, right? So you can buy thousands of houses, hundreds of houses, create a demand side Sukuk. Again, all the Sukuk that we have right now are demand at supply side, that is for construction, right? You see family loans doing Sukuk, and all the other agencies doing Sukuk, but we're going to be exploring demand side Sukuk. Again, yesterday people talked about the fact that a lot of people that want houses, a lot of money that Federal Mortgage Bank gave out in the past, they're not building for the right market, right? So people just can't afford them. But when it's demand size to cook, it means that the people are buying houses on water, on rocks, in some kind of, if you like, deserts, sometimes even bushes, right? Because they're going to exist at some point. So the fund that will make them exist must be available, right? So we have our list structure. There's no time for that. And we have our agency contract. Let me give you an example of agency. Assuming I want to do a transaction, 5 billion naira. I'm in the middle of 2 right now for this week. 5 billion naira. That transaction is just 5 billion naira. But I want to do the transaction. I want to close it right now. I'm skipping the other slide. Somebody gives me the money. I don't take it to my books as a bank. I pass it on to the developer, right? I pass the money on to the developer. I get a fee. My fee can be as high as 5-7%. But rather than taking that liability on my books, why? What is capital of banks? No-interest banks, all of them put together, capital is less than 100 billion. All of them put together, far less than 100 billion. What's the capital of regular commercial banks? Will they owe their money in assets, real estate assets? No, they won't. However, offer them bond, offer them sukuk, and see whether they won't. Federal government bonds, 80% of those that buy are conventional institutions. They control almost 70 trillion naira. Let's even leave PFAs that control another 14 trillion naira. They will buy the instrument and will put them in housing. Demand side, demand side. Again, demand side because somebody is off-taking, and then that money will then be given to those that will create the supply. But somebody is paying you back, so you mitigate repayment risk, the ability to repay back. You mitigate it when you deal with the demand side. Again, because of time, I'm not going to talk about all of that. REITs, I'll skip this, but again, Sukuks, real estate, private funds, they're the most profitable in any kind of funding. They're the most profitable. How do you make them very profitable, right? Hope I'm not going back. So let me look at one quick Sukuk model that we have done recently, that we're in the middle of right now. Yeah, we tried to explore Federal Mortgage Bank, to guarantee, or let's even assume that this time around Federal Mortgage Bank is doing the Sukuk, right? So I just change the names around, right? Or get infra credit or other parties to guarantee it, right? We'll make it demand side, even though demand side will fund supply on the back of real asset and real value without mistakes. But more importantly, is the guarantee. Put a guarantee to any Sukuk. It doesn't have to be foreign banks. It can be local banks, 31 banks, even 32 banks sometimes. You gather all of the titles. We're doing one right now. We're getting titles from about 10 developers. We're giving them to a bank to issue a guarantee. On the back of that guarantee, people will buy, right? People will buy those instruments, right? So, fantastic. Infra Credit is also able to play in this space. Now, let's look at this. Let's assume Federal Mortgage Bank, or let's say Federal Ministry of Housing, or NMRC wants to issue a Sukuk, right? Let's get Islamic Development Bank to guarantee, a partial guarantee. Let's get African Development Bank. Let's get DFC. Immediately, you make it green enough, DFC will put money in it, get DFC in the US, right? Let's get other parties to promise to refinance that instrument over time. Let's say, okay, NMRC, how much do you have in 2 years' time to refinance? They can then go and create a bond, use that bond to take out the buyers, right? And Federal Mortgage Bank also play in the same space. And also, we then look for other institutions, banks, asset management companies, that have got pool of funds that can create notes by attracting pension funds. And those, how do you create notes that attract for pension funds? 2 credit rating, 2 ratings, right? Augustus, that maybe one other one. On the back of that, they will invest. If you don't have 2 ratings, they're not going to invest, right? And don't forget, they can invest long term, right? Get a few of them to, for other infrastructure funds to take you out. So that Sukuk can then be in programs, you can roll them over time. And conveniently, for that matter. Now, these are just basic rules in Sukuk. Now, let's look at, again, this is another one we're trying to do. Forward Ijara means forward, off-plan lease. So all the federal governments have forward Ijara, off-plan lease. Again, there's no time to describe Islamic finance, right, as such. Now, in this case, cash flow moves around. Now, again, on the back of guarantees, and sometimes some other parties to underwrite, investors are going to put in money. So again, my proposal really is how do we use all of these instruments to do better Islamic finance? I wish I can move my slide around before my time runs out. Okay, this is a fund that we try to do somewhere, actually in the UK, but the same model can be used, right? Sharia compliant fund, got all the parties together, got all the obligors to be in a pot, in a portfolio. Very similar to the Sukuk model. But let's look at this. ICD, Islamic Corporation for Development Private Sector. Yeah, Nigeria is a member. Those of funding can come in there. Let's assume they are putting funding to trust out for developers, right? For example, again, we just make it green. When we make it green, everybody put in money, right? Yeah, you can call Dukia Gold and say, Dukia Gold, no problem. We can hedge your FS risk. How do you want to hedge FS risk? Do you want to buy Euro bonds at 15%? On the back of that, go and get a facility in Naira, one option. Of course, now, you cannot use your FX as collateral for Naira loan, right? There's CBN policy on that, right? Do you want to simply keep it in Dukia Gold and say, okay, hold on to this money. We're going to be taking them in bits. Meanwhile, the money will be appreciating because of the value of the gold, which appreciates over time, right? On the back of that, give it to the parties. Again, get one or two guarantors on the writers to come in, or those that will off-take at some point, right? This model, we have practicalized it. Again, get other institutions, local capital market players, Now, people are doing infrastructure funds. Infrastructure funds can be used for our kind of projects, right? And infrastructure funds can actually mobilize so much, right? But again, rather than supply, we're doing demand, because demand will end up funding supply, and that's where we're going. And I've described in my first slide that rather than think about how one person can buy a property of 50 million, 30, which they cannot afford anyway, why can't that Sukuk fund the other part so that somebody owns that asset and that person can trade that asset? Unlike what happened in the US, 2007, 8, thereabout, where you have Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac doing subprime mortgage, right? They were lending nothing. There was no asset. So they create derivatives on different assets. They leased it, they created instruments around it, got the rating agencies to rate them. And at the end of the day, there was nothing. But this time around, what's happening is everybody is buying heavily into those instruments, right? We're in the middle of this, or something very similar to this. I'm giving you an example of Shelter Africa. We gather developers doing affordable. We get an institution like Shelter Africa, for example, to fund through a company, an asset management company that has all of the ratings that is required. If I tell a developer, do you have 3 years debt financials? No. What's your capital? 1 billion, 1 million. You have 1 million capital, I want to collect the facility of 2 billion. Nobody's going to give you. I did one in the bank. Everybody approved to go to the board. The board said, no, we're not going to give because the capital is just 1 million naira, right? They don't have a sound governance process, right, in place. It's owned by one man. All right, what happens? Key man risk. Something happens to the man or something, or it takes all the money away. So we said, let's structure this in a unique manner. Let somebody take the risk. The repayment risk, there's FS risk, the even performance risk. Let somebody take it and distribute the money to the parties, right? This works perfectly well. Of course, on the back of a BG, double BG, back-to-back BG. One BG, person that gives to, say, the Pan-African institution, a second BG coming from another bank that will then guarantee the first BG, if you know what I mean. Again, we have managed costs such that it's still lower, right? Yes, my time is up. Okay, commercial papers, right? We can use in the short term, right? You can use commercial papers. I'm aware that Blackwell Lakes, they use commercial paper, it's real estate. On the back of the commercial paper, you get a line, a credit line somewhere. So when it's time to pay, and there are shocks you cannot pay because you've not sold the property or something, that credit line helps you to sell on the back of the property title that is your guarantee, right? Again, we use a Muraba model. A Muraba is a markup sale under Islamic finance. Okay, I need to round up. I've been asked to leave. Next slide, please. Someone can help me. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, can you even move it slide, please? Okay, so apart from this, yes, this is another very similar one. So you can create, you can on the back of creating a bond or a sukuk or a mortgage-backed bond, as the case may be, on the back of it, you can retail that product such that people that want to invest smaller monies can invest. Let me give you an example. You buy a bond worth 10 billion naira or 1 billion naira. You then create notes. Maybe you hold it for 5 years. Then create notes so that people can invest for 90 days, 180 days, so monies can come back to you. The money you have spent, you have put in that sukuk or that bond or that mortgage bond can come to you by further securitizing your unique product so that it becomes retail. You don't have to go to the secondary market to sell your unit. You simply make it a smaller unit, right? Again, we have done this. We have used federal government sukuk to do this. On the back of real estate sukuk, rather than wait for refinancing, because of the little money in the refinancing institutions, we can refinance by creating other smaller notes, right? Those notes have been approved by Central Bank, by SEC, and all of that, all of the institutions, so we can actually make them happen. Okay, let me run. Now, I'm not going to talk about REITs. REITs will have been very nice. Again, the idea then is, how can we use the REIT model, right? How can we use the REIT model to then help supply, to get money from the suppliers, even though REIT should be income-generating assets. Again, there's no time for that, but let me look at this. Maybe I'll stop here. I won't take the other slides. Now, we have 70 trillion in the conventional space. Now, some clients will come and say, hey, but I want Sharia-compliant money, right? I'm like, okay, that's not a problem. Let's go to a commercial bank, a conventional commercial bank. They have a lot of money, right? They're not going to lend to you. Let's put the money to a conventional asset management company, right, to take the facility, right? But again, it's better for bridging facility, because don't forget the cost of fund is high. So in the process of doing the sukuk, right, because it's going to take a bit of time to be ready, maybe 2, 3, 4 months, let's quickly get a bridging facility and get monies from the bank. Again, I've done this several times. Let's get the money into an asset management company. The asset management company gives a wadia. Wadia means safekeeping to a related asset management company. That asset management company gives a convenient facility to a developer that builds. While they're building, Sukuk is ready, or some other refinancing fund is ready to take the bank out, so that the cost of fund, right, reduces from 24% to maybe 17% as quickly as possible. I'll stop here. He's harassing me already.
Thank you, sir. And from the response, he said the presentation was well received, but we have seriously stretched the time. And as we mentioned, you can meet him after the event, have your questions for further clarifications, and during the break to push further. One thing was clear from his presentation, that we need to begin to innovate and develop more products to enable various groups that are able to one of the groups that are very solid and are used to paying small monies every day that accrue to hundreds of millions every year, the road transport workers. And the representative is here, and there will be a good group. They are all scattered all over the country. Products can be developed for them so that they can get affordable housing in Brooks Estates all across the nation. So that's a very good product indeed. I'd like to take a few recognitions, just two, and then we'll move on to the next presentation. The Executive Secretary from Kaduna State Mortgage and Foreclosure Authority, Mr. Yahya Aliu Lere. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause, sir? Thank you very much, sir. It's good to have you with us. We also have the from the Public Service Commission, Mr. Gidado Sarikin Nyama, MFR. Shall we also welcome him with a round of applause? Thank you very much. All right, we're going to continue with our presentations, and at this point in time, we will be moving from what we have. Our next presentation is crossing into disruptive building technologies, and I believe it's time we welcome, yes, it's time we welcome the very experienced continental business model that they have built and established over the years. They have trained thousands of individuals and empowered them to be able to build affordable housings. Ladies and gentlemen, for innovative technologies, infrastructure, materials, and utilities for affordability, shall we welcome the MD and CEO of Hydroform Engineering Limited, the distinguished Hakim Hotman.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have some slides. Can it be on and running, please? The convener, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my topic is innovative technologies, infrastructure, materials, and utilities for affordability. This is a very large topic that cannot be done in 8 minutes. But what I've tried to do is to look quickly into 3 technologies and for affordable housing, 2 technologies for infrastructure, and 2 technologies for utilities. One of the technologies is using plastic bricks from plastic waste. Next slide, please. I will not dwell on that because Mr. Salu will look into that extensively. So I'll move straight to what we do at Hydroform. Hydroform is an alternative building technology. We have spent the last 35 years perfecting this alternative technology. We are the innovator of interlocking stabilized soil cement technology. With research and development, with leading academic institutions over the years, we've perfected a technology that produces a block that all sides are interlocking, that we have reduced the use of joints, mortar joints, to almost 70%. We have eliminated 70% of mortar joints in building a house. We have reduced the use of reinforcement and concrete to the barest minimum. It's a technology where you can train an unlettered person in a day to produce the brick, and in a week to become a builder. If we are serious about housing our people and reducing this housing deficit, Hydroform is one of the solutions to consider. I'm not saying it's the only solution, it's one of the solutions. I took on this responsibility to promote this technology almost 25 years ago. We have built over 2,000 houses, and we have trained several thousands of people in the use of this technology. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next. This is the darling of the Hydroform technology. This machine is called M7MI Super. It produces 2,200 bricks in 8 hours. It's a complete machine. Next slide. This is our flagship block or brick, if you like. This is 180 mm interlocking brick. Okay, next slide, please. This is our latest development for the Family Homes Fund. We call this a Fulani house, which we plan to roll out in our rural communities. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is part of the house. This is Hydroform Nigerian house, built in 2019. It's the cheapest house in the market. In 2019, this was built for 3.5 million. That's equivalent of about $3,500 today. Doing the same thing this year, we delivered it at 6.5. Next slide. These are typical houses built with Hydroform. Next slide. Could we move to the next slide, please? This is an estate in Kuje built for the Air Force as part of their post-housing program. Can we move to the next slide, please? This is a fire station for Lagos State government built in 2013. Next slide, please. Now, let us talk about 3D, concrete printing. That's the future. That's what we should expect. if we really want to solve this housing deficit, there is a need to invest in technology. And 3D is one of the solutions to consider. It is still futuristic for some of us, but it's already being used in some countries. Even in Africa, it has started to gain some roots. It's a technology that removes the use of formwork completely. There's no kind of geometrical designs that cannot be done, but it still requires a lot of training and acceptability in the market. Next slide, please. Next slide. No time for this. Yes, we are now moving into infrastructure. A lot of you have heard the Honorable Minister for Works that we are fixated on the use of bitumen for our road construction. He's advocating concrete roads. I share his sentiment, but concrete road is not the only solution. There's what we call soil cement technology pavement, which is being used in America, in Canada. At least there's 196,000 kilometers of soil cement road in America. And it's being used in all the states of the United States of America and all the provinces of Canada. Why are we not using this simple technology to produce, to deliver roads at cheaper cost? Basically, the technology uses in-place material. You don't have to haul materials from one place to the other. When you see the way we construct road here, all the materials can be in place, and you mix with cement. But you have to do a lot of testing to make sure the soil in place meets the required requirement for the kind of road you want to build. This is an area we have ignored completely, that I've written to the Minister of Works on this to say, look, there's a need to look at this technology we have so many roads, particularly federal roads, that are in bad shape, that we can do for a fraction of the cost they are being done at the moment. And even for estate developers, you go around all our estates, you find that the infrastructure is always failing. We use bitumen roads that are not sustainable in this climate for our estate development. I would recommend this technology for our estate developers as well as government at all levels. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Vibraform paver block technology. Hydraform is known for bricks, but let me interest you in that we are also into concrete masonry blocks. We have machines, different types of machines, under the trademark of Vibraform. I will only talk about one of these machines. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next one, please. Yes. This is the flagship that I want to talk about. V3SE hydraulic. This is one machinery every developer must have in his stock of equipment. Why did I say so? With this equipment, You can build your house, you can do all your infrastructure, your road, your drainage. The convener can attest to that. We have moved this equipment to his site, and we have done virtually all the roads at half the cost. So all you need to think about is, what do I need? What element of construction do I need? And you fabricate it, and this machine will produce it for you. A lot of people don't know the value of this machine, particularly developers. They can save tons and tons of money using this equipment. Next slide, please. Next slide. Solar roof. We are now going to utilities. If you look through Abuja landscape, you'll find a lot of funny roofing styles that are built with serious money and achieving little or nothing other than to cover you from rain and sunshine. Let me interest you. The same amount of money can generate all the electricity you need throughout the duration, at least in the next 25 years, if you adopt a solar roof concept. They are either called solar shingles or PV shingles. Because solar panels have some affinity with roofing. So it's no brainer to say, look, why are we wasting all this money doing fancy roofs when we could have replaced them with solar roofs? So I think our developers, if they love us because we have energy shortage, some houses don't have power more than maybe 12 hours a day. I think you can call the bluff of AEDC, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, off by putting some solar roofs on your house. Next slide, please. Next slide. There's some example of what it looks like. Next slide. Yes. Rainwater harvesting. We only see this in rural communities. To us, we think there is no water shortage. That's what we think. But there is serious water shortage. 3% of water available worldwide, only 3% is potable. And out of that 3%, only 1/3 is available for you and me for our daily needs. Even for agriculture, it's only 1%. That is 1/3 of the 3%. And God has blessed us with rainwater, and we do nothing about it. We waste it every housing design today must incorporate a rainwater harvesting system, because there is going to be a problem. There is no city in Nigeria, even Abuja, that is planned, that is able to give potable water to even 50% of its residents. And this is one easy way that we can capture all water you need in a year during one single rainy season. All you need is to design a system to capture, process, and make it portable for all your needs. According to the United Nations requirement, at least each person needs about 75 to 150 liters of water a day. So do the maths. during one rainy season, you can capture all the water you need in a whole year. Next slide. Next slide. That's what it takes. It's a very simple system, but majority of us, or 90% of us, do not know that we have this facility available, and it costs you little to nothing to put this system in place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. And I wish we have more time. I hope the convener will provide us maybe 20 minutes so that we can do 100 slides. So Professor will have more time to present this paper. And colleagues on the panel, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause there for that veteran presentation. Decades of pioneering and experience bringing real-world solutions. We thank you, sir, for bringing your wealth of experience to us. I'd like to call to the podium, and he'll be making his presentation shortly, Mr. William Michael, co-founder Brickify. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause as he comes to join the panelists? And shortly, he will be making his presentation. And his presentation will be Plastic Waste to Low-Cost Building Solutions. And he will be making that presentation. Thank you very much. Just take your seat on the podium. And shortly, we'll be calling you. Right now, we will be going to... Oh, there's no seat. Oh, apologies. A miscalculation, sorry. When Mr. Ottman was standing, I saw a seat and I forgot that that's where he came from. Apologies. So you can just sit in front and we'll call you up shortly. All right, so up next for the next presentation, we'd like to call upon the Managing Director, Brooks Assets and Resources, Brooks Assets Housing Development Strategy. That's what she'll be talking to us about, her own real-world experience and the strategy they've used to be successful in Lagos and other places so far. Shall we welcome her to the podium with a round of applause, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just had a very good bargain from them because I'm the only lady there. They are giving me extra 2 minutes. Please tell them thank you. So it's very pleasant to be here today, and I'm standing on existing protocol. While preparing to come here to talk, I thought about what are we going to be talking about today. The past years, we have become a lot of things that has been constant. The charming smile of our convener. Thank you very much, sir. The moderator, he's been constant. Guess what else has been constant? The same problem of housing. I've not even seen any reduction in the numbers of the deficit that we'll be talking about. And I thought about what can we do differently. So actually, yesterday, the key speaker was referring to me that Larry will not do mass housing. And I couldn't believe hearing that because he has known us building luxury houses in Lagos. But about 3-4 years ago, we decided to add to our portfolio development of mass housing. What pushed us to that is we want to make impact. We looked at the society and we saw that, okay, if we are going to be developing, for us to make impact, looking at the pyramid, would like to affect the lives of people at the lowest echelon of the pyramid. We know that funding is an issue when the person I was talking about, no interest. I quickly call my CFO, please take his number, take his picture. We must talk to him. But there's something we are leaving out, sir, and this comes, my experience over the years where we are trying to market our mass housing to people in Lagos. I build in Lagos. We know land is an issue, funding is an issue. So guess what? Guess what else is an issue? The unseriousness of the people that actually need these houses. Yesterday, he was talking about, he's here representing the Executive Secretary for the Federal Government Staff Housing Loan Board. My company invited them to Lagos like about 5 times. We took them to Lut, we took them to Unilever, we took them to Nigeria Army. They are making presentation. These people do not even believe, even despite that they came to Lagos to come and make presentation, promising that if you fill this form, if you apply for this loan, we will give it to you. They did not believe that they would get this fund. The equity contribution is an issue for a lot of civil servants. We discussed with the governor, we were able to reduce the cost of land. We are selling properties at the rate of 13.5 million, where people around us are selling at 30 million. Each time we gather lots of civil servants together to come and enroll, we talk to them about it. You see this enthusiasm, we have loads of, so about 3 weeks ago precisely, we got TUC to gather lots of their staffs, Lagos State civil servants, LRS. They came to our Ipaja development, where we had tried to reduce the cost at which we are selling by giving them different level of finishing. Properties worth 35 million, we're offering it to them at 15 million. We had loads of registration, but sir, for them to shift from their comfort zone to fill forms that we want them to fill, you will call, you will beg to develop 500 houses in Ipaja. The profit I will make on 500 houses, I will make it developing just 2 houses in Ikoyi. And you do not have problems selling those houses. As you are building in Ikoyi, people are there waiting to pay the gradual payments that we offer. Now, the people that we are here talking about, that we are stressing ourselves that we need to provide mass housing, I look around, I'm not even seeing lots of cooperatives coming here to learn. Have I not learned a lot being part of this family? I have learned a lot. Where are they? They are not keen. They do not have faith in the system. When we talk to them about NHF, they will say, that all of this thing is waste of time. Their organization came to our development with a lot of people that applied in. Sir, every week, the number of people that are applying kept reducing. So my message here today is we need to actualize. We need to take this to the people that really need it, the people that we are concerned about. I do not think they are as concerned as we are. We hear a lot of figures of what is going to be in the next 10 years. They're not even thinking that way. They are not ready to shift from their comfort zone. Fill form, they're not going to fill form. Okay, go online and do stuff. They will tell you, I don't have internet. They give lots of excuses. So I believe employers, peers, everybody, they need to sensitize all of these people. So the thought here is there is a need, but is there a hunger? Is there a hunger for it? We have a concept that we are trying to prove now. We are at the tail end of closing days. This is what we did, so that people will not have to go looking for the equity contribution. Am I blaming these people so much? I'm not blaming them, because over time, they have filled a lot of forms, they have not gotten houses. Their faith over time on the government, the policies, has been eroded because of antecedents. But now there are lots of people coming up, people like us, sitting down here, looking for a way out for providing mass housing. I'll still be talking about Lagos State. The chairman of Hydraphone, he's left. I was going to take him on it. We had invited him to some of our estates to come and look at how we can reduce the cost of development. He was able to make a lot of impact, yes. We're able to reduce our cost. We're able to provide, we have, in Ikorodu, we have plans to provide houses of about 6 million, 8 million. We had presented it to staffs that work in loot. You know, there are doctors, there are nurses. Not even up to 10% of them can afford to pay the 30% equity contribution. So this is what we did. We just needed them to fill up all of the forms that they need at a Federal Mortgage Bank, so that the primary mortgage institution can give us a guarantee against their NHF that was going to come. So we got contractors. There are contractors that want to come to Nigeria. Yes, maybe because they have developed faith in the new government. They want to come, they will build, just pay little percentage of the cost of construction. So it takes away cost of fund. We do not need to go about looking for fund, you know. But still going back to, I just need for us to, then another thing I'd like to talk about, for developers that go into mass housing, they should be celebrated. We should celebrate them. So each time workers are getting keys to houses, it should be well broadcasted, it should be celebrated, so that people's faith will be, they will increase, yes, reinforced, you know, so that by the time we gather next year, we'll be able to come here and say, we have been able to provide this number of houses to these people. By the time we keep doing all of that, so many people will, maybe this is going to work, let's fill the form. Maybe this is going to work, let's fill the form. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's amazing that she said she'll take more time and took less than her time. I think it's actually quite correct that we have a lot of, one of the things that has stood out since yesterday is what is happening to all the action we need to take. We meet every year, we talk, there seems to be a deficit in implementation, and that is something that we really need to look into. And hopefully going forward, we should be able to achieve that. So thank you once again, Madam. So I think we're going to getting close to, I believe, the last presentation for this session, after which we will take the questions and comments, and then the panelists will come down, take their photographs, and then you can engage for a session of, if you have other questions, you think you would like to clarify, opportunities they mentioned that you would want to take advantage of. It will be a brief moment for about 30 minutes, and then we will proceed for lunch and return for the final session, which would also not last too long. So please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome to the podium for Plastic Waste to Low-Cost Building Solutions, a solution by Brickify Limited. Welcome, representing the CEO is Mr. William Michael, a co-founder of Brickify. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause as he comes to give us this innovative solution.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols well and duly observed. So I would like to start with what Mr. Oshodi said. He talked about housing deficits and low-cost housing, which I believe everyone, we have been talking about it. Even for years, we have been talking about it. And he said 100 million people won't be able to afford a shelter. He said, like the Commissioner of Housing said yesterday, he said in Igodo, Lagos, because I'm also from Lagos State, he said they sell houses as cheap as 6 million naira, especially to civil servants. But the question I would like to ask you is, how much is the income of the civil servants we are talking about. Some people, they are earning 50,000 per month. And you think they can afford 6 million, just like that. Let's talk about practical, not theory. Now, because of this, we have been on this research for over 7 years on how to reduce, to get buildings for low-income earners, like the pepper seller people, the people walking on the streets. We are not considering the big men now and the big women. We need to look at low-incomers also. So we decided to take a look at 3 important materials in construction. Don't mind me, I'm a builder. I'm a registered builder. So we look at reinforcement bar, granite, and cement. We believe those materials are the most important things, apart from finishes, that makes the building more expensive. So we try to remove these 3 things. My slide, please. Wow. So we removed the 3 things from our materials. So we, in Brokify, we build low-cost houses from plastic waste. When I say plastic waste, someone look at me and say, how come? Yes, from plastic waste. But the funny thing is, the bricks are fire resistant, they are heat resistant, and they are even water resistant. So we are solving 3 problems. The first one is plastic waste problem. In Lagos, as an example, presently, every year we generate over 15 million metric tons of plastic waste, which ends up as landfills. And recyclers only recycle 2% of it, as low as 2%. Also, housing deficits. People have been saying 55 million, 24, 22, irrespective. And also the rate of poverty. Just let me tell you this. Africa has the highest rate of poverty in the world, which I believe Nigeria is number 23 in the world. So we build low-cost houses, and also we build schools, public toilets from plastic waste, and we discovered that most of the materials in the building can be achieved from plastic waste. Like the roofing members, we also do that too. The roofing sheets, the ceiling, even the floor tiles from plastic waste. So even the sofa, like the one you are sitting on, we make sofas from plastic waste. So like I said, it is cheaper, and you have lower construction time, durability now. For instance, you can build your house for maybe 7 days, maximum, 7 days. It is wind resistant, heat resistant, fire resistant. We have tests that we have done internationally and locally to prove that. And thank God we have organizations like last week that are supporting us. Lagos State Research and Science Technology, they are supporting us. So we have our go-to-market strategy. We have NGOs, government agencies, religion centers, organizations like that. So presently, we are talking to a firm like Mr. Mr. is #1 real estate company in the whole Africa. So they contacted us. As at last week, they came to our factory to check our machineries and things like that, because they want us to be like 500 houses in Lekki for them, low-cost housing. Just imagine you are building a house for 20 million, where you can build for like lower than 10 million with Brokify. That's amazing. So also, we thought of bringing technology like fintech into our idea. So we are improving gradually So what we are planning to do now is how to get to people. Like I said when I started, we need to help the low-income earners. So we discovered that we told them that if you can gather a particular certain amount of plastic waste, and it is equivalent to building maybe a room self-contained for you, we do that too, which is in plan of what we are trying to do in the future. So in few years' time, we are looking at going to states like Bauchi, states like Maiduguri, for their IDP camps and things like that, to build low-cost housing. So our team, we consist of 9 people, apart from the workers and staffs. We have the CEO, which is Mr. Salu Mayowa, and I'm the co-founder and the CTO of the company. We have the COO, Mrs. Funke Da Costa, and we have others like that too. So we have architects, mechanical engineers, and builder in our team. We are looking for investors, and we'll be glad to have anyone to support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we give a round of applause to all our panelists and presenters who have presented amazing papers and presentations here this afternoon. And now we will be going to the section for, I need some of the ushers here, please, so that we can have the microphones circulating. So it's going to be pretty straightforward. We'll ask the question. Yeah, the microphone. So, excuse me. Thank you. So it's going to be pretty straightforward. We'll ask the questions, hand them over to, say the name of the panelist or the person you are sending your question or your comment to, and then they would answer the questions. We'll take a few questions, maybe 3 or 4, and then they will reply. We'll take another 3 or 4, and then they will respond. And after that, we will be done with that session. If the person is on, do we still have our online people there? Okay, let's know who and who.
We are here online.
All right, thank you very much. That's good to know. So if your question is for someone who was online, they're also there and they're waiting to respond to your question or comment. Panelists are also free to ask their own questions or make comments based on presentations by other panelists, whether online or in the house here, so we can make that happen. So are we ready? Okay, so I think we have our first question over here. Please take the microphone to him. You state your name, possibly your organization, and your comment or question. Please, let's keep it straight and sharp. Thank you.
Actually, mine is a comment. My name is Yahya Ore. I'm the Executive Secretary, Kaduna State Mortgage and Foreclosure Authority. The last speaker mentioned about the incapacitation of off-takers, particularly civil servants.
Okay.
I just want to make it maybe additional information. We should all be aware that PENCOM last year gave approval for all RSA retirement saving account holders. They can utilize 25% of their savings to pay as equity for mortgage.
Okay.
So in Kaduna State, what we did now, or what we are doing now, we've already sent a circular to all the civil servants, all the ministries, compile the list of those who are interested to buy houses so that we get their information. And then, of course, we are partnering with so many primary mortgage institutions, FHA, CMB, and others. So that at the end of the year, we will have the number of those people that are interested so that we'll make this affordability easier. So you can utilize 25% of your RSA savings. That's been approved by PENCOM.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate the comment.
To the non-interest speaker, I think I will meet him personally.
All right, that's fine.
But what I want to say is that it's a general information. You need to make truly, make it optical education, even the bankers. Because when people say non-interest, as I speak with you in Kaduna, we sign an MOU with Sterling Bank for a non-interest finance, though it has not taken up yet because the state has not given its contribution yet. But anybody who comes will just assume this loan is without interest.
Without interest or without any payment. No problem. So we get the question. So
yes,
there will be time for more what it means, voter education on non-interest. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. We have a gentleman at the back there with... Please, let's keep our comments short, sharp, because of time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Saidu Hassan from Macro Homes Nigeria Limited. Macro Home is very, very interested in a program of such. And my comments is based on the last speaker that talked about plastic waste to low-cost building solution. I want to believe that Macro Home is after affordability and solidity of buildings. We are very much interested in providing homes for our people. And he speaks clearly about use of plastic in the production of houses in low cost. I need a clarity because there is no any form of slide for that. If we want to build a house using a plastic, we need assurance. He made mention of heat resistance, water resistance, and fire resistance, whereby there is no any slide for that.
All right, thank you very much.
Assurance
so I think we get the point. And probably when you're responding, I'm sure more than one person has that concern, so it'll be a good point to just respond to. And also, you can meet him after the event, and he will be able to explain that better. The microphone, please. Okay, we have someone in front here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a very good panel session. My name is Sharif Bakari. I'm the founder, CEO of a property software company called Propertize. I listened to everything that all the speakers have said, and I feel that technology has a big role to play, and we're available to speak to interested partners who we can leverage our own technology, our staffs, in order to make housing available and affordable for people, and also to be able to get to this retail market, because at the end of the day, the problems are usually around how do you get to those customers, how do you make sure that KYC is easy for them, payment is easy for them, how do you bring all of the parties, the insurance, all of the players, the financial institutions and all of that. We have those technologies, but we can't do that on our own if we don't have these partners who are willing to support us, you know. So as much as we're talking about technology, we're also talking about partnerships. We're talking about financial institutions. We're talking about insurance company. We're talking about developers. We're talking about people who supply the materials and all of that. So please, we are willing. We know it's a problem. We want to buy houses, but we can't do it alone. We need you. Okay, that's the first one. The second thing is also, what's the use case for modular houses? Is there a reason why we're not also considering that as an option? Is it too expensive? Is it an area that we should be looking at? This is just open to all of the developers, you know, if they can share more light on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Sky, you wanted to, Dr. Delacroix, you wanted to mention something? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Dr.
I know we are running against time, but I just feel as to say this. And that is also to be able to meet the spirit that is in the room in this summit, that we should move to implementation so that we don't continue to repeat I don't know what Dr. Adelakun will think about this. I didn't discuss this ahead with him. But I'm thinking this summit should form subcommittees to address some issues so that we don't just talk generally, we go and come back next year and we are repeating the same thing. And in my head, I can see this aspect that has to do with funding. We need a specialist in those areas. Maybe the doctor will guide us before we finish today. Then a lot have been coming up in the areas of innovation, and I'm so excited to see young people so many areas that are coming within our country. I'm particularly excited that we have hydrofoam in the room, and somebody that's very young also is in the room. That's a way by which the old can complement the new. About areas of innovation, we need to form a committee.
Yeah,
what are the new areas to build affordable housing that are coming up? Let them be drilling on it. Then we need to form a committee that will also be dealing with the aspect of technology, generally. What are the challenges that we have with housing that's collapsing and all of that? And that would be my suggestion. Maybe I will meet with Dr. Adelakun during the break time so that we come up with a structure to address this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. And in the spirit of implementation, I think I will call Dr. Adelakun up to respond to that so that we can take action immediately, come to certain decisions. Shall we please welcome, and the reason, just to your comment where you mentioned that I was happy to see that you were here, the reason this summit was put together is to bring various sectors and factors and solution providers together so we can move forward and become exponential in our productivity. Shall we welcome the convener of this conference, Dr. Saheed K. Yemi Adelakun, to respond to that statement. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, MC. You have been as eloquent and articulate as you can ever be. Every year there's always been improvement. Let's clap for him. And I think we need to clap for ourselves for gathering today. It's not easy to bring people together. We are in this room, people in the 60s and maybe some in the 70s. And you can see the young man that just finished his presentation. We've got to blend our thoughts. Like our MC or rapporteur said, we have it on our program already, action plan. Actionable plan should be the icing on the cake. We have had a lot of speech. Our professor here had 100 pages of slides, and we're able to take only 8 minutes of his thoughts. We cannot go away without looking into those papers. And the same person that raised the question is the man in charge of actionable plan. So, Dr. Aziz, I'm empowering you now to set up those committees. Volunteers, people can volunteer to be on it. When we talk about finance and capital market, we have my brother here, Femi Adeleke. Bashir, everybody is interested in non-interest finance. Is it true that it's non-interest? So he is willing and ready to support us. Insurance. That's the president of the Council of Registered Insurance Brokers. So, and in this room, at least we have 10 insurance brokers. Are you here? Yes. Yeah, okay. So there's no problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, a round of applause. Quick and swift action. So we would like to ask the panelists, is there any question you'd like to respond to? Question or comment you'd like to respond to? Okay.
People online want to ask questions as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll let him just respond, then we'll take the online questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take the Kaduna one.
Okay.
My brother from Kaduna. And I was group head non-interest banking at Sterling Bank for 8 years. I just left that position 3 years ago to set up Trust Athol. Now, in Kaduna State, about 6 years ago, we created a scheme for the low-income civil servants that allow them to get single-digit markup or rentals on their mortgages. And in that process, we use that to educate the civil servants, and it worked perfectly well. So the government brought some money. We also brought some, right? We subsidized the fund so much. We created some kind of finance subsidy, right? And then we gave the money to civil servants. We bought the houses for them, and they paid us. It was a kind of rental structure. We bought, and then we rented to them. And they paid us over a long period of time, conveniently. So with that model, those in Kaduna understood that process perfectly well, those that benefited from it, right? So again, I agree with you that there should be better education around all of these things, but Cardinal, we've done very well. You need to go and check the records, right, while I was there. I think that process is still ongoing. That model is still there, just to create other models now that we can use effectively. Luckily, with the federal government to cook, lots of people now understand the way non-interest banking works to a very large extent. I'm aware that 2 weeks ago in Lagos, sorry, in Abuja, there was a program on non-interest finance, and last week in Lagos, we had a special program, Trust Author and Lotus Capital, had a program on fintechs, you know. So that knowledge is spreading. Again, I can catch up with you thereafter to talk about what else we can do together. I'll take only that question for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Splita. I think Madam had a comment. Sir, I think Madam had a comment, so let her finish, yes, then we'll take his thing.
Excuse me, the second person that spoke when he said 25% of their pension contribution. Let's not call names here at all of some organization. In my office now, sir, we have over 3,500 applicants that wants to use our property to get their 25% pension contribution. Guess what they want to use it for? Not for equity contribution. They want to cash out. They want to cash out. They want to collect the money and take it away. And it still goes back to my point of the people that we are trying to help here. They are not hungry for house. They are not so hungry for it. And we have to turn it down that we cannot allow them to use our property to collect the 25% and cash out, because there are still some people that want to use this fund. So we have to be careful. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Sir, please.
So, I'll just say that Larry has said it well. We need a kind of reorientation for the people for whom the convener has brought this kind of program about. We see almost none of them here. I know that the economy is bad, but even in the worst economies, people still acquire assets, they still acquire properties. And I think we should have a kind of bridging of orientation. On the issue of insurance and the provisions of insurance, you see, insurance is strictly regulated, but we have insurtechs that you can partner with. There's at NICOM, there's the guideline on web aggregators. You have to partner with an existing broker or underwriter. The people, you can't just get onto the software and start selling insurance, because you need to protect the consumers, and the stakeholders' interests must be protected. The insurance industry is open, and we look forward to collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Let me just...
okay, sir.
On the issue of, according to the people that we are doing all this for, I think maybe there will be need to relook the go-to-market strategy of this conference. You understand? Because once we are clear, we are clear the segment we are trying to appeal to. So the question is, how do we reach them? Again, still speak to technology. That's the reality. So technology has a greater role to play. Is the retail market the lowest end of the market? So what channels do you want to use to reach them? I think beyond technology, there may be need to also employ some traditional models of marketing, because some of these people at times, it's not like they're so literate and all that. So it's going to be a mix. So I will recommend for that go-to-marketing strategy to be looked at properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we should go online now. We'll take some comments or questions online.
Okay, can I go ahead, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, my question, one is an observation, and the other one is a question. The question starts though. Maybe I would direct the question to Dr. Bashir Oshodi. This Islamic finance, I feel they should also consider people in low income states. Let me put it that way. Low income state like Kwara State, where majority of the people in the state are low business people that do SMEs and civil servants whom their money is not much, and whom I think the Islamic finance aspect could help in having an affordable home. Then I want to know if there is something they are doing about that. That's my question. The second one is just a suggestion, and this is to all these companies that are bringing up the technology, the building technology. Are they actually considering network penetration in all those technology for building that they are suggesting? Because sometimes you can have a building, at the end of the day, the network is not flowing within the building, and it will be a frustration for people that are occupying the building. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those questions. I will take another online. Do we have any other question or comment online, please? We have no other comment or question online? All right. So let me also add to that before that is, okay, maybe we should just respond to that, then we'll look for one or two more questions on hand.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take the Cardinal, Kwara State. You know, funding, well, let me talk about subsidy. Subsidy is something government must give. It's kind of incentive from government, right? If government is not giving that incentive, it's going to be very difficult for the private sector. Subsidy can come in several forms. So if we want us to create some kind of cheap assets, you know, for those in states where income is very low, there must be some kind of land subsidy, right? We can always work out interest rate subsidy from the institutions that federal government has set up, and some other incentives, right? So again, what we try to do is, of course, some kind of PPP arrangement. I'm aware that Niger State right now, there's something we're working together on, is a PPP structure where there's an element of subsidy that will reduce the total cost of whatever we're going to do, so it can be affordable. Yeah, so these are the kind of discussions that we need to have before we can then determine whether we can, you know, go into those markets or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll ask for questions here. Okay, sir. Let's. So we'll take two more, and then we'll round up this session.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much. I'm Engineer Bengal Vasa, James Stratec Properties. For my company, we do properties in coverage of hundreds and thousands, and we relate with governors. Presently, we're talking with Nasarawa State Governor and talking with Wukari University at Taraba, and even with the governor. They're looking forward to build 1,000 housing estates in their place, and also some are looking at 500. But what we usually look at is the affordability. Now, with the kind of funding you're talking about, the Sukuk funding, and the materials that we are looking at, if we can look at the viability of these, maybe we can introduce it to them. We want to know the modalities that is being applied in putting all this in place, so we can also put it in front to them and see if it can be considered. Thank you.
Okay. I presume that will be a meeting afterwards? Is it I think it's a meeting afterwards. You can meet them personally, and you can sort out the modalities. What I may want to ask, permit me to pull someone's leg here. The issue has been mentioned that some of our people, the poor, the lower income, are not interested in it. So I'd like to go to the Deputy Secretary General of the Road Transport Employers Association. A lot of your employers are within that category. So I'm going to ask you, what has been, are they interested? What are some of their thoughts and difficulties in this regard, so that we can draw from source? We're not speculating on the answers. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Comrade Henry Giofo Ugu, the Deputy National Secretary General, Road Transport Employers. Yes, I just finished discussing with the convener. We are over 16 million people.
Wow.
And I think that is the biggest market for now. We are having business with him. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Nobody should even approach us.
Thank you, sir. All right, so do we have any other question or comment? If we don't, we'll wrap up this session. Well, thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our panelists. So the panelists will now calm down. Did you respond to any of the questions? The issue of the durability, would you like to respond to that? All right, can we give him the microphone to respond to the issue of network, the issue of durability, and all of that?
The issue of durability, actually, because I said plastic does not mean 100% of our materials are gotten from plastic waste. So we have other chemicals attached to it to make it fire resistant and heat resistant. Mind you, there's something I did not say, which I would like to chip in, like an opportunity. In our bricks, we have different kinds of bricks. So we have a particular brick for electrical fittings.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so we have some bricks for electrical fittings that instead of using a conduit pipe like PP or irrespective of the pipe, you can just slot in your cables inside our bricks. So we have a socket brick also that you can just screw your socket or switch to straight. So we have bricks like that also to cater for M and A. So for the durability, it is stronger. You can get samples if you like, if you want to see. I can give you samples of the lumbars and the bricks also. The issue of networking, we are okay. Network is okay. It's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. Yeah, we have a stand here.
All right, so there's a stand outside. You can go and see the materials for yourself and ask questions there. For network, phone network penetration or internet network penetration, he says it's not an issue. Thank you very much. So at this point in time, I'm eager to go for lunch. I don't know about you. So I would like the speakers to calm down and take their group photograph. Please, a round of applause for them. They have delivered an incredible amount of knowledge in less than 2 hours. It's amazing the body of knowledge, wisdom, and experience and expertise that has flown in this plane. Excuse me.